3-2 in the second. We'll keep you across all things tennis over on Extra. We'll be back after the Grand Prix, but now the time at 2:41. Let's cross to Silverstone and join Jenny Gow and the team.
Thank you so much. And we've gone from the quiet courtside action to the loud, blaring motorsport action with 480,000 fans pouring into Silverstone across the weekend. And I can tell you what, a lot of them are hoping for a British winner. And we are in the best position to see a Brit take the top spot, because for the first time in F1 history, here at Silverstone, we have a British top three. Yes, you heard that right. It's a Mercedes lockout at the start. It's George Russell on pole position. Alongside him, his Mercedes teammate will be Lewis Hamilton. And then right behind them, tacked in that papaya orange McLaren, Lando Norris is P3. Max Verstappen, after the drama last time out in Austria where the two clashed, will be beside him on the grid. It's feisty. It's all set up. The weather, well, who knows what we're going to get. It's been rainy, it's been sunny. Even now, you don't know quite what it's going to be like for the start of the race. But Harry Benjamin, our lead commentator, this is the dream setup for F1 at Silverstone.
Oh, it absolutely is, isn't it, Jen? I mean, the weather is changing every 5 minutes. As you said, 3 British drivers starting in the top 3. Max Verstappen just behind in 4th as well. A tight midfield. Cars out of position as well, a couple of them further back in the pack, ahead of 52 laps of racing around what is an iconic circuit. That word gets bandied about quite a lot, but it absolutely is. We've got gravel, we've got runoff, and we've got some incredibly fast and technical corners. I'm excited. I hope everyone else is.
Oh, well, who could not be excited at this stage? And we have Sam Bird, who is a McLaren driver for Formula E. And you have to be totally unbiased today. And that is going to be really hard, Sam, because the guys are in the top 5.
I'm not going to be unbiased, Jenny. I am 100% behind McLaren today. No, it's going to be a great race, I think. I think weather's going to play a huge part. I cannot wait to see what happens. It's going to be unpredictable, relentless. We've got 3 British drivers at the front, and let's just hope that they stay there, but in a different order.
Tell you what, Adam Norris, Lando's dad, and his mum are by the side of his car, and you can maybe hear the music pumping. They're having a little boogie. I love that. Lando is nowhere to be seen, probably having a comfort break. But, I mean, what are we going to expect? Because this is a tricky challenge as they try and go around these 52 laps of the F1 Silverstone circuit. And it could catch them out at any time, especially on the first lap, hey?
Yeah, I think for me, turns 1 and turn 3, if you can negotiate those 2 on the first lap, just make sure that you keep your front wing in check. Make sure that you don't drop any positions, get off the line cleanly. I think especially Lando with the car that he's got underneath him, I think that after the first few laps, the Mercedes will start to use up its tyres. I think Lando can have a great race today as long as he gets through those first few corners and don't let the charging Red Bull behind get past.
Yeah, it's going to be Russell, Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Stroll, Albon and Alonso as the top 10. More chat later. I'm going to go off and see who I can find, because this grid is packed full of stars. Can't wait to get my elbows out and see who I can find, but I'll throw it up to you guys in the box to ruminate a little bit more about what we can expect over the next 2 hours.
Thanks, Jen. If you find any good celebs, feel free to completely cut me off. We'll allow it. But the British Grand Prix grid is one of the most packed grids of the season. The commentary box with a beautiful view. We're just above the Williams garage, and outside we can see the 2 Aston Martins, the Williams and the Ferrari as well, lining up. Both Ferraris. Charles Leclerc a little bit out of position down in 11th, but it really is a huge racing spectacle here. Andrew Benson, the F1 correspondent for the BBC, in terms of tyres and strategy, how is this race going to play out? What are we expecting?
Well, if it rains, Harry, of course, anything could happen. And there are grey clouds on the horizon, and the teams are saying that there's rain around. It's just a question of whether it actually hits the circuit or not. If it's dry, we're expecting a one-stop race, mainly on the medium and the hard tyre. But George Russell, who's on pole, was talking yesterday about the soft tyre as a race tyre, potentially. So Mercedes might be tempted by that, but the risk with that is that it will go off quickly and do something called grain, which is when it sort of the surface tears and it loses grip. And Mercedes are already at risk of higher tyre wear than McLaren behind them, so we'll have to see whether they take that risk.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of question marks going into this race as the clouds are gathering. We've had rain on and off, pelting rain earlier on today, but then the track immediately dries out. But we are expecting a little bit more rain, possibly around about the race start time, 3 o'clock local time. In terms of where the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship lies, let's just bring you up to speed there. Max Verstappen heads the championship in the Drivers, 237 points. He has an 81-point gap ahead of Lando Norris. Then it's the two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez rounding out the top 5. Let's head down to Jenny Gow on the grids.
Yeah, I've started with the tallest man I could find, Stuart Broad, of course, cricketer extraordinaire. This is like nothing else, is it? It's amazing atmosphere.
It's absolutely incredible, you know. It's I was actually just with Pat Cummins, the Australian Test captain, and we were saying, could you imagine this before you're about to go and perform and do your skill? And imagine how many people are around and like looking at the car and stuff. It's incredible. It shows the mentality of racing car drivers when they can switch on as quickly as they can when it's game time, and that's approaching very quickly.
Would you have hated having this atmosphere before a cricket match?
I mean, the atmosphere is incredible. I loved feeding off the crowd and the energy, and you know, I knew that I bowled at my best when I had that energy, but I also needed to be in quite a sharp frame of mind and ready to go. And you know, the racing drivers obviously train for this sort of thing. But I think we're set for a great race. You know, I think this first lap, these first couple of corners are so crucial. We know Max is going to attack it, don't we, from fourth? But yeah, it's pretty cool to have a British top 3 in qualifying as well. You know, it's so good to be here.
It's good to have you. You enjoying retirement?
I am, very much so. The guys are training at Lord's today, so they've been texting me saying, what are you up to? So I've been quite sort of graciously sending them the odd picture from Silverstone.
You're not missing it too much then?
Not yet. I might do Wednesday when the game kicks off. Yeah, it will be. But you know, Jimmy's last Test match will be a really special occasion.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to us. I'll let you go and have fun.
Thanks, Jen. With Stuart Broad there, one of England's greatest ever Test bowlers. The grid absolutely packed full of stars from sport, stage and screen. Where was I? I was with the Constructors' title, wasn't I? Well, that is currently being headed up by Red Bull. 355 points to their name. They're 64 ahead of Ferrari. Then it's McLaren, Mercedes and Aston Martin in the top 5. And it's RB heading up that second half of the field ahead of Haas, who banked a good haul of points last time out in Austria with double points for Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Then it's Alpine, Williams and Sauber 10th and last. Sauber still the only team yet to get off the mark. Can they find anything this afternoon? It's going to be tough for them. Joe Guanyu starts down in 14th with Valtteri Bottas down in 16th position. Sam, the grid, the grandstands, it's absolutely packed. Obviously for the British drivers it's special, but I'm sure it's similar for you when you've had home races before. How do you manage the preparation of you getting into the car with all of this buzz around?
Yeah, there's a major buzz around the place, isn't there? Whenever it's a home race in any category that you do, but as soon as you put the helmet on, which is what we see Nico Hulkenberg doing right now, who's starting 6th, incredible qualifying by the way. Once you put the helmet on, once you get in your race car, it's you and your engineer and your race team, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter about the crowd willing you on, you can't hear them. Let's go down to Jenny Gow.
Right, I've got 2 amazing petrol heads here on the grid because it's full of celebs. JK from Jamiroquai and Ian Poulter. This is quite a good lineup on the grid, but also an amazing backdrop and setting for a sporting event, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed radically from 10-15 years ago. I mean, the new buildings have given it a bit more of a Le Mans feel, and yeah, it's looking good. The atmosphere is great because it stopped raining at last, but this will be the deciding factor in this race of whether it rains or whether it doesn't. But yeah.
Ian, what do you think? This is so different from golf and the quietness of a green. We've just got Wimbledon, that's all quiet as well, but this is all really in your face, isn't it?
It's amazing, right? Look what sport we've got going on right now. England won last night, 3 Brits on 1, 2, 3 on the grid. The rain's come and gone. Hopefully we get a great race today, and the fans are here in the masses, so it's another special Grand Prix at Silverstone.
And I'd just like to add that now I've seen Ian's Ferrari collection, it's bigger than my one, and I'm quite jealous.
That's not fair, is it? Okay, tell me, who's going to win? Because I don't think it's a Ferrari day today, so
No.
who are you calling it for, JK?
No, I mean, you know, having met Lando, he's a really lovely guy, you know. I mean, they're all great guys, you know, but I really hope he does well. I think the McLaren car is doing really well, actually. It's sitting on the ground really nicely, yeah.
Same, listen, McLaren have been strong. I hope they have a great weekend. It'd be great to see Lando win at home. Be pretty
Off we
special.
go, we're going to get kicked off the grid. Have a good race.
Thanks, Jen. Jamiroquai and Poulter. What a duo to find on the grid. Obviously, Sam, their support going very much the way of Lando Norris. Coming off the back of Austria, things getting heated with Max Verstappen, a tete-a-tete. Verstappen getting the penalty, or the worse penalty. Do you think that's going to affect the way Lando Norris goes racing this afternoon?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that there's a good reason why. Max Verstappen isn't going to change. Of course he's not. He doesn't feel like he was in the wrong at all. And Lando wasn't in the wrong either. They're both going to go at it. They're both good friends. Let's face it. They've had a discussion. They've spoken about it. They've made up. And Lando's even come out and said, it was good racing until what happened. I don't think either of them are going to go and change their approach. I think they're both going to be sensible into turn 1 and turn 3, but they're certainly not going to change their approach.
Well, Lando Norris, starts in third, just ahead of Max Verstappen. We'll run you through the whole grid shortly. But a standout on the grid, you have to once again applaud One Lap Wonder at the moment. He's taken that Mr. Saturday crown away from George Russell in the last few years. Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. In 6th place he starts. This is his best quali since Canada last year. But since his return to Formula One, he's rejuvenated his career.
Yeah, he's been stunning, to be honest, on Saturdays. And he's never really had the credit he deserves with regards to his whole, his racecraft, his qualifying. Nico's a big guy, like he's 6 foot, he's a big, strong guy. And I think that hurt him in his early days in Formula One when you had to be light and nimble. But now, it's a shame that he's older, because I think that he would deserve a look in at a top team.
Well, Nico Hülkenberg does leave the Haas team at the end of this year. He's joining Sauber, which will then become the Audi Works team. Let's head down to Jenny.
I'm just down here. Jeremy Clarkson, your farm's just down the road. We've turned it into more of a racetrack today. You enjoying it?
Well, it's like it's interesting. I spent all my life working with cars and never really came to races, and now I'm out of cars. I really am enjoying it again, like I did when I was a kid.
Why do you think that is?
The cars are exciting, but it's like working in a chocolate factory. When you're working in cars, they get boring after a while, and now I'm not working in cars, they're interesting again.
I like that. I mean, we've got a great grid here. It's very British at the moment. We've just had the flyover go by with the red, white and blue. Who do you reckon's going to do it today?
I think if it rains, what normally happens is the older, wily foxes win, Alonso or Hamilton. They're just, they experience more than the younger ones. But we'll see. I mean, I could be completely wrong.
I mean, surely you're a bit of a weathermeister now. Is it going to rain or not in the next 2 hours?
I have a weather app. Well, I actually have a weather station on the farm.
As a farmer, I thought you'd be really into the... Oh!
So that's where we are.
Right over Northampton.
I'm going to say it's raining here at 15:50.
Okay, you heard it here first. Thank you so much, Jeremy Clarkson, farmer and obviously motorsport presenter.
Thanks, Jenny. Great to hear from Jeremy Clarkson. His farm just down the road from the Alpine headquarters in Enstone. In fact, a lot of the teams, well, this really is a home race for the majority. Mercedes just 9 miles away in Brackley. Red Bull, well, they're a bit further, 21 miles in Milton Keynes. Aston Martin, the closest, just a couple of miles, literally opposite the entrance to the track. Haas 2 in Banbury, about 16 miles away, and then an Alpine a little bit further afield. But this is a home race. It has a big home feel about it. Those it's not a home race for, and we'll have some work to do this afternoon, Sam, will be the likes of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Let's start with Charles Leclerc, knocked out in Q2 yesterday, starts just outside the top 10 and 11th. What can he do?
Well, I think Charles Leclerc can still have a decent day and get in himself in amongst the top 6, I would say. I think Piastri, Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Russell are too strong. But if he has a decent strategy, he'll race with Carlos Sainz, his teammate, to 6th, 7th, maybe 5th if somebody has a bad day at the front. I can't see any more than that. As for Sergio Perez, starting last and from the pit lane, he's going to have a really tricky afternoon today. He hasn't shown much speed recently. Obviously, the mistake yesterday in qualifying really putting him under pressure for his immediate future with the team. I hope he has a good day for himself, because he needs to get some confidence back.
He certainly does, yeah. He had qualified down in 19th, but with some PU changes, a brand new power unit in that Red Bull, he will go from the pit lane. He's only scored 15 points since Imola quite a while ago, and for Charles Leclerc as well, since that Monaco win, he's scored only 12 points in the last 3 races, so they'll be hoping to bank some more points. But Sam, this track, 3.6 kilometres, miles I should say, 5.8 kilometres, just over that, 5th longest on the calendar. Just visualise for us, you're starting on pole position, you're George Russell, where are you looking on lap 1?
I've been fortunate enough to start here on pole in F2. You are simply focusing on getting the best launch that you can off the line and making sure that you have a good line through turn 1 and turn 2, and then pick a braking point. Be ambitious with your braking point into turn 3. Don't be too early, but don't be too late, and then run wide. You've got to have a good run through 3 and then a good exit down towards Brooklands and Luffield.
Well, there is a 164,000 people in the grandstands today. They are absolutely packed, and a sea of colour as well. Papaya caps, but you've also got the fluorescent of Lando Norris. You've got Lewis Hamilton fans, George Russell as well, all willing on their men, starting on in the top 3. George Russell's 2nd pole position this year, 3rd career pole as well. Will be carrying a little bit of extra pressure on his shoulders, but of course he's off the back of, okay, he didn't have the pace for the win, but he's off the back of one from last time out in Austria.
He's going to be riding high. I think that, Mercedes know and understand that they probably don't have the actual outright pace of the Red Bull or the McLaren here this afternoon, but they're going to give it a go. I mean, they've got 2 of the best drivers in the world starting at the front of the grid. If they can work together, potentially, could they get one of them on the top step? I don't know. We're going to find out any second now.
Well, we're nearly set then for the 75th British Grand Prix, the 59th held at Silverstone, 3.6 miles, just over that, 5.8 kilometres, 18 corners, 8 to the left and 10 to the right. Safety car percentage is high, a red flag percentage around 40% as well. 50 of the last 12 Grand Prix have been won from pole position at this track, and a lot have been won from the front row, and that is where you will find George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. It's a track that can be tough on tyres. Let's see how degradation, how strategy pans out as well. Fast sweeping corners, quick changes of direction. It's time for the British Grand Prix. On pole position for the British Grand Prix, it's George Russell in the Mercedes. Alongside him, his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and starting from 3rd, making it 3 Brits inside the top 3. It's Lando Norris and McLaren. Championship leader Max Verstappen goes from 4th. It's Oscar Piastri in 5th, with Nico Hülkenberg, a sensational qualifying in the Haas, rounds out the top 6, ahead of Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, Alex Albon in the Williams, and Fernando Alonso in the other Aston Martin round out the top 10. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is 11th, ahead of Logan Sargent's Williams in 12th. Yuki Tsunoda goes from 13th in the RB. Zhou Guanyu is 14th for Sauber, ahead of Daniel Ricciardo for RB. Valtteri Bottas in the second Sauber goes from 16th, ahead of Kevin Magnussen's Haas. Esteban Ocon is 18th in front of his teammate Pierre Gasly, with 50 places given as a grid penalty for a PU change, and he will be the last man on the grid, with Sergio Perez starting from the pit lane. Formation lap then well underway. Sam, what is happening on the formation lap right now? What are the drivers doing?
Well, everybody's trying to conserve and get heat into their tyres and brakes. You've got to make sure that everything is within working temperature ranges. The last thing you want is to get to the line and not have done enough weaving and a warm-up for the exterior of your tyre, the interior of your tyre, and also the carbon brake discs, which need to work at around about 1,000 degrees.
Okay, well, they're just coming through the final complex now, through Vale and then through 17 and the final corner 18, club corners. They come and line up on the grid. Andrew Benson, the BBC's F1 correspondent, is with us as well. Andrew, talk us through the tyres.
Well, nearly everyone's gone for the medium, certainly everyone in the top 10. There's only a couple of sort of backmarker runners who've got a different choice. Perez in the pit lane on the hards. That takes the soft out of the equation for now, and keeps everything on a level playing field for what looks like being a one-stop strategy on the medium and the hard, as long as it doesn't rain.
Yeah, and those on that soft tyre, Joe Guanyu and Esteban Ocon further back. Jenny Gao also with us, down on the ground.
Yes, a pit stop takes around 20 seconds. Pierre Gasly is reporting on his in-lap. He's just coming into the pits. He's reporting a problem with that Alpine car. He had a grid penalty, but that's not good.
No, and he's coming into the pit lane. He had a 50-place grid penalty for taking a fifth ICE and going ahead of his allocation of the internal combustion engine. So he is out of this race by the looks of it before we even begin. Sergio Perez will start from the pit lane. The last car on the grid then will be Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. And on the front row, it's two Mercedes, it's two Brits, it's George Russell on pole. Alongside him, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris just behind. It's all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing for the British Grand Prix in Silverstone. It's a good start from Russell, but Hamilton slides in behind, tries to sweep round the outside. Norris holds on to third. Verstappen just behind, being hounded by the second McLaren of Oscar Piastri as Russell makes his way through Village into the loop. In the lead of this race, Hamilton getting oh so close though, just gets his nose chopped off by his teammate, but out onto the first of the straights around this track, and it's Russell who leads.
Yeah, difficult start for Lando Norris. They just got boxed in a little bit by the Mercedes, chose the wrong line for me into turn 4, allowing Max Verstappen to sweep around the outside, take that advantage and take third place away from him.
Lando Norris now also under pressure from his teammate Oscar Piastri. It's Russell who leads Hamilton. Verstappen now up into third. Norris fourth. Piastri fifth. Sainz up to sixth. Ahead of Stroll. Leclerc up to eighth. Hulkenberg has fallen down to ninth with Fernando Alonso rounding out the top 10. They are your current point scorers as they make their way through the tight, twisty and technical part of this track. Through Chapel, Maggots and Beckett's as well as they sweep through fast flowing changes of direction here. But it's a good start from George Russell, but he hasn't been able to shake his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who is right in his wheel tracks with Max Verstappen watching on a little bit adrift, but he'll be pleased, Verstappen, that he's managed to dispatch Lando Norris in these early stages.
Yeah, I think that was the key move for Max Verstappen to get ahead of Lando. I don't think Max Verstappen will be too concerned about the Mercedes. Maybe he should be, but I don't think he will be. I think Mercedes are a little bit harder on their tyre than the Red Bull and the McLaren.
The two Williams further back fighting. Alex Albon has lost positions. He's down to 12 and has just managed to get back ahead of his teammate Logan Sargent. The two Williams in 12th and 13th as DRS is enabled at the end of lap 1 as we begin lap 2 of 52. The drag reduction system when you're within a second of a car down the Wellington straight and again the Hangar straight. Those are the two DRS zones. You can open your rear wing flap and close in to the car in front as Lando Norris tries to get closer to the back of Max Verstappen but has to slam onto the brakes before the corner arrives.
We've seen this year, haven't we, how good Lando is on the tyre. Okay, he didn't have the best first lap, but he brings the tyre in gently, more gently than other people around him. We can see that the Mercedes are pushing really hard. He's now within DRS. Are we going to see attack on Max Verstappen in the next couple of laps?
Norris is really intent on getting that place back. It looks like at the moment he was right on Verstappen's tail heading into Brooklands at the end of the old national circuit back straight, and he's now following Verstappen onto the Hangar straight, Sam.
as Hamilton is told by his engineer, rain potentially in around 25 minutes as the clouds do begin to darken over this Silverstone circuit. It's lap 2 of the British Grand Prix. George Russell leads Lewis Hamilton, the two Mercedes 1 and 2, and within 0.6 of a second of each other. Hamilton's still within that DRS zone as they come around for lap 3 down the start-finish straight. Verstappen actually a little further adrift from the two Mercedes in front, 1.8 seconds back from Hamilton. Verstappen third, then it's Lando Norris, Piastri fifth, Sainz is sixth, Stroll, Leclerc, Hülkenberg is ninth ahead of Fernando Alonso. That's the top 10, and then just outside it's Tsunoda, Albon, Sargent, Zhou, Ricciardo is in 15th, Ocon is 16th ahead of Magnussen, Bottas and Sergio Perez, who started this race on the hard tyre from the pit lane, is now, 19th and last. Pierre Gasly retiring before this race even began.
Turn 3 incident involving car 27, which is Nico Hülkenberg, has been noted, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Difficult start for Nico Hülkenberg from 6th down to 9th and under investigation.
If you've switched on thinking you're hearing the coverage of Wimbledon and it's a little bit louder and a little bit more fast-paced, you're correct. This is Formula 1 coverage on BBC Radio 5 Live. Wimbledon coverage continues right now over on 5 Sports Extra.
Alex had a big piece of bodywork come off.
That was Logan Sargent in the Williams on the radio saying his teammate Albon, who was just ahead of him in 12th, had a big piece of bodywork coming off of his car. We'll see how much that is affecting Albon, who started this race up in 9th but has lost 3 positions so far. And as I was saying, if you're looking for Wimbledon coverage, it's continuing now on 5 Sports Extra, and once the conclusion of 52 laps here in Silverstone is done and dusted, it'll be back right here on 5 Live for your tennis coverage, ball by ball commentary continuing on 5 Live. Lap 4 of 52 for the British Grand Prix. Russell heads Hamilton, Verstappen up a place ahead of Norris, 3rd and 4th. Piastri rounds out the top 5. Sainz, Stroll, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Fernando Alonso round out the top 10. They are your point scorers.
Yeah, George Russell doing a really good job out front at the moment. He looks like he's got some serious speed out there. He's broken away from Lewis Hamilton and is out of DRS range for Lewis. He's doing a really good job at the moment. I know only 4 laps into the race and he's got to eat these tyres out for 25-30 laps, but even so.
There is a small shower that might appear on lap 6, but it might just affect turn 15. We'll keep you updated.
Does Lando Norris being told potential rain on the way. Turn 15 is Stowe, so it's in the final sector of this lap at the end of the Hangar Straight.
Yeah, the weather's coming in from that direction, isn't it? We can kind of see some darker clouds appearing on the left, on our left, as we look at the start-finish straight. And that's kind of the direction that Stowe is. Anyway, nothing has changed at the front. It's still George Russell from Lewis Hamilton.
Yep, some battles bubbling away, though, in these early stages. Good time, then, to check in with Jenny Gow.
Yes, I tell you what, I can see that cloud really coming in close. And when it rains here at Silverstone, it really does quickly, and then it can last for a long time or a little short, sharp shower, which is what we had right before I went down on the grid. So just to talk about Mercedes, they're out in front, but is there anything that they can do to work together to make their chances of winning this race better?
Harry, to you.
Yeah, you're the driver.
Hang on, should we go to Benny? Let's go to Benny.
Well, let's watch the replay at the start first, Sam. We'll talk about that afterwards, eh?
This is the sound of
Verstappen closing on Norris.
It's interesting where Lando positions his car. He goes deep, then he goes wide, which makes him go early on the brakes, and then Max Verstappen gets the overlap and wide through turn 4, and has an easy move into 3rd place.
That was how Verstappen got ahead of Lando Norris on lap 1. This is the sound of Alex Albon, who runs into the back of the Aston Martin, and that lost Albon about 3 positions, and might have been the cause for a bit of bodywork flying off late around the lap that his teammate Logan Sargent saw. Albon doing a good job to keep that car pointing in a straight direction. This is the sound you're hearing on board the Chinese driver Zhou Guanyu, who had to really slam on the brakes to avoid Albon's car, who jerked massively to the left, then to the right, as the Thai driver tried to save that Williams.
Yeah, it all just concertinaed up a little bit for Lando Norris behind George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. He chose the same lane as them.
expecting the increased rain around lap 16.
Okay, so rain maybe in 10 laps time, but that gave Max Verstappen the outside line all to himself. He could brake as late as he wanted. He got a slight overlap on Lewis Hamilton, and it was an easy third place.
So to answer that strategy question, there are 2 Mercedes against 1 Red Bull, so they can do a strategy mix to try and box Verstappen in and stop him getting ahead of both those cars. One can go short, for example, that might force Verstappen to respond. The other one can run long, and then at least one of the Mercedes should stay ahead of the Red Bull. Verstappen has a double disadvantage because McLaren have 2 cars behind him as well, and they can play the same sort of tactic with their cars, trying to trick Verstappen. If they box one of their cars early, that's pit them. That risks them, Red Bull, needing to copy that to stop him being passed in the pit lane by the other driver coming out on fresh tyres. Then they can leave the other driver out and box Verstappen in that way. So he's got a double problem that Max Verstappen on his own. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez, his teammate, is almost completely at the back of the field, so he's only gained 1 place in a Red Bull since the start of the race.
Lap 6 of 52 for the British Grand Prix. George Russell leads the pack by over 1.5 seconds from Lewis Hamilton. Then it's Verstappen in third. This is the sound, though, of Charles Leclerc trying to overtake the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll as they make their way round the right-hander of Stowe. Has to tuck in behind as he finishes off the lap. Has to settle, though, for the time being. Leclerc currently in 8th, Stroll in 7th. Let's head over to Wimbledon and get an update on the tennis. Katie Smith.
Where Carlos Alcaraz, the defending champion, leads by 2 sets to love on centre court against Ugo Humbert, the world number 16. Alcaraz taken to 5 sets in his previous round, and he's making lighter work of this, looking for a place in the quarterfinals, while Madison Keys is serving for a place in the last 8 against Jasmine Paolini, the runner-up at Roland Garros.
Thanks, Katie. Coverage of Wimbledon continues right now on 5 Sports Extra, and we'll be back right here on BBC Radio 5 Live at the conclusion of the British Grand Prix, which is what you are listening to now, where George Russell leads a Mercedes 1-2, Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, Verstappen in 3rd, a further 1.6 seconds back. He's not within that DRS zone. Norris is 4th, about a second back from Verstappen, having lost the position to his Dutch rival. Piastri rounds out the top 5 and is actually slowly closing on his teammate Lando Norris ahead. Sainz is 6th, Stroll is 7th in the Aston Martin, embroiled in a great 3-way battle, which actually involves, well, Lance Stroll, Charles Leclerc, and also Nico Hülkenberg in 9th in the Haas. Hülkenberg, who started this race in 6th after a blinder of a qualifying for the Haas man, tucked up behind Charles Leclerc at the moment, and both of them are tucked up behind Lance Stroll.
Well, yeah, I think Lance Stroll is being the stopper in the bottle at the moment. He seems to be the one that's off the pace a little bit compared to the top 6, obviously. He's holding everybody up. You look at the queue behind him, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Tsunoda, Albon, Sargent. They're all really, really close, line astern.
Yeah. Alonso just a second back from this battle, and then you've got Yuki Tsunoda for company as well, about 8 tenths behind the Japanese driver, looking to get back into the points. Ahead of the 2 Williamses, Ricciardo is 14th ahead of Zhou Guanyu, Magnussen is 16th, and Sergio Perez, who started from the pit lane, is now ahead of Bottas and Ocon. He's up into 17th spot as we watch a replay and hear one of Daniel Ricciardo making his way down the Wellington Straight, making his way past the Sauber of Zhou Guanyu with the aid of DRS round the outside as they make their way into Brooklands. Nice move from Ricciardo to get back up into 14th. Kevin Magnussen also dicing some moves further back in the pack, battling hard with the sole remaining Alpine of Esteban Ocon through Village and turn 4, the loop, the left hand, which then leads you on through Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Magnussen up to 15th. He's got Perez right behind him now as the Mexican tries to recover in that Red Bull. The Mexican on that hard tyre started from the pit lane, now up to 16th and right behind Kevin Magnussen. Lap 8 of 52. George Russell leads by over 1.5 seconds. Jenny Gow.
And they just flashed past me here in the pit lane. I'm waiting for the first pit stop. We're expecting it around lap 16 if you started on the soft tyre. Not when he did, just Zhou and Ocon. And then after that, medium tyres about lap 24. And by my calculations, just to make things even more spicy, that should be exactly when the rain starts to fall. So let's see what happens.
All is not yet won or lost for the 19 drivers that remain in this race. No Pierre Gasly, who started right at the back anyway, but then came into the pits at the end of the formation lap with suspected engine issues. His race not even getting started before he had to come into the pits. It's the two Saubers right at the back, 18th and 19th. Charles Leclerc on the radio.
In 7 laps, lasting for 10 minutes.
Rain expected in 7 laps, lasting for 10 minutes. So more rain chatter over the radio. That was for Charles Leclerc that time around. It wasn't engine issues for Pierre Gasly. My apologies, with gearbox issues. Of course, he took a 50-place grid penalty at the head of this weekend due to exceeding his power unit elements, going to his 5th ICE. And the sound you're hearing is the sole remaining Alpine. His teammate Esteban Ocon making his way round the Sauber of Zhou Guanyu through Stowe up into 17th, but the Alpines not having a great run of it this time around compared to Austria, both running nip and tuck within the points.
I wonder what the teams are going to be doing with their tyres if there's rain in 10 minutes time and it's only going to last for 10 minutes. Is it even worth? Can you brave it on the slicks? Can you get round, or will they have to change to the intermediate tyre? We've seen today in all the support races pretty much that people that have changed tyre have done better than the people that have braved it.
Yeah, and the reason for that particularly is going to be the case in the Grand Prix, we expect, Sam, is because Pirelli have chosen the 3 hardest compounds, and that means for this race in Silverstone, because of the high-speed corners that predominate here, and that means it's really, you need a dry line to run those slicks in damp conditions. So I would imagine if it does rain, and it's a significant amount of rain enough to wet the track, people will have to stop for intermediate tyres.
It dries quickly, though, around here, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. If there's a lot of cloud cover and the sun doesn't come out again, it can take quite a long time. If it gets cold, which we've seen this weekend, and it can get really cold, it can take a lot longer. It can take double the time. But yeah, you're right. If the sun comes out, we're talking after 3 or 4 laps, there'll be a dry line and people will be begging to come in for some slicks.
Now, right now, air temperature just under 17 degrees Celsius, track temperature 25.6 degrees. So it's not exactly a baking hot summer's day in Silverstone. As the clouds continue to loom, rain coming in. Jenny Gao.
Yes, and I'm looking up at the sky, and yesterday the clouds and the wind we're causing the clouds to move a lot faster. Today, it's not as windy and the clouds are settled in. So when it comes, as they've said on the radio, it is going to stay and linger for a while because there's just no movement in those clouds.
No, and we can see, though, on some of our pictures, and we've had a few shots of the team radars, that there is certainly some heavy rain on the periphery of the track. How quickly that gets to the track, if it just misses us or does it get to certain corners, we will see within the next few minutes. Lap 11 of 52, though, of the British Grand Prix. Russell leads Hamilton by 1.5 seconds.
It's pretty clear, Harry, that the teams expect the rain to hit the track. We just had a shot of from a sort of helicopter camera that shows here's Norris's radio.
And Lando, when the rain comes, it's going to be a racing decision of when is the right conditions to take it, so we'll keep it simple.
Yeah, so that was when Will Joseph, Lando Norris's engineer, was saying the rain comes, not if. Just on the battle at the front, by the way, it's interesting to me that Max Verstappen's dropped 2.5 seconds back from Lewis Hamilton in second place. Verstappen in third behind the 7-time champion. Of course, he may be protecting his tyres, trying to give them a bit more life, but you wouldn't expect Verstappen to be dropping back that much.
No, I wouldn't. Maybe Mercedes have gone into this going, right, we know that the rain is coming at some point early. We're going to start on the medium compact. We're going to go for it.
So expect the rain to last around 5 minutes. Then there'll be a window of 10 minutes before a longer cell.
Maybe they've been told, look, guys, you've got the start of this race is crucial. We need to push. And then you're going to be getting rid of these earlier than normal due to the fact that we're probably going to be going on to the intermediates. It's got to be that, Andrew, surely, because I can't imagine that the Mercedes is the fastest on race pace.
Well, you say that, Sam, but I was talking to someone very senior at your team, actually, earlier, and while they were saying that they think they've got better tyre life than the Mercedes, they think that the Mercedes might actually be the quickest car this weekend and might have the quickest race pace as well, because they've made such a step forward in recent races on high-speed cornering performance, and obviously nearly all the corners at Silverstone are high-speed curves, so actually maybe they are the fastest car today.
Well, at the moment they are, because they are leaving Max Verstappen for dead. 3 seconds the gap now between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The two Mercedes cars are pulling away.
Last lap around for George Russell, a 1:31.5. Lewis Hamilton, a 1:31.4. Max Verstappen, a 1:31.8. With Lando Norris only a 10th slower. The two McLarens just lurking behind Verstappen still as he swings it into the right-hander of Stowe as you then peel out onto the accelerator. The pit lane entry to the driver's right before you slam onto the brakes and turn through turn 16, heading through Vale 17. Then it's a double right-hander to finish off the lap round the final corner at Club and back across the line to begin another lap, lap 13 of 52 of the British Grand Prix. Russell, Hamilton, Verstappen are the current top three, but Verstappen falling behind the two Mercedes and the two McLarens just nipping at the tail of the Red Bull. Norris ahead of Piastri. Sainz kind of in a bit of no man's land at the moment, 4 seconds back in 6th in Ferrari. Then a battle still brewing for 7th between Lance Stroll. Charles Leclerc is right behind him, has not been able to get through on the Canadian. Hulkenberg is there as well. Then comes Alonso. Those are the top 10. They are your point scorers as we get the first pit stopper. It's Zhou Guanyu, who started down the grid in 14. He was on the soft tyre, the quickest of the rubber, and the Sauber man comes in for a fairly speedy pit stop, 2.9 seconds, and heads back out. I think that was the medium tyre.
So it was the medium tyre.
I'm really perplexed by that decision. The rain's coming in 5 minutes. I mean, you hang on your soft tyres even if they're worn out, surely, before the rain comes.
Otherwise, you've lost a net 25-30 seconds. It doesn't really make much sense. I know that they've not been running towards the front, to put it kindly, but that strategy doesn't really make much sense to me. What I must say, though, is Lance Stroll's doing a very good job of holding back Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc's not able to really make hay on... Well, as I say that, here he goes down the inside. And there we go. And he's done it finally. After 14 laps, he's actually made it through. So I'll retract that comment very quickly. And now he'll set sail and try and catch up to his teammate, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, with the aid of DRS down the hangar straight, pulled to the inside of the Aston Martin in front of him as the red Ferrari swept down the inside through the right-hander of Stowe. Charles Leclerc been wanting to make that move for a while and finally gets it done. Leclerc now up to 7th, Stroll in 8th, who will now be looking at his mirrors at Nico Hulkenberg in the Haas, who is right behind and are trying to bank what will be crucial points for the Haas team in that battle in the lower half of the Constructors' Championship. Fernando Alonso rounds out the top 10. Outside of it lies Tsunoda. The two Williams, Albon ahead of Sargent, Ricciardo and Magnussen is 15th. Perez up to 16th now on the hard tyre, having started down in the pit lane. Ocon is 17th, Bottas 18th, and then Zhou Guanyu just pitted from the soft to the medium tyre, with Sauber clearly having a different radar to everybody else up and down the paddock, because we are expecting rain, at least 2 portions of rain imminently within the next 10 laps or so. It's lap 14 of 52 as it currently stands. And while the battle at the front between Russell and Hamilton has kind of stabilised at around 1.5 seconds, the battle is well and truly on for the final spot on the podium. Max Verstappen currently 3rd, Lando Norris 4th. They were the other way round at the start of this race. Verstappen managing to get the position on lap 1, but Norris is closing in on the Red Bull ahead of him as they make their way round turn 18, the right-hander of Club.
Just keep me posted if anyone's going off. It's going down slightly harder now. Will do.
So, we're getting a radar. It sounds like George Russell is seeing and feeling the rain coming down on this circuit. It's lap 15 of the British Grand Prix. How intense is this rain going to get, and when will it cover the entirety of the track? Battle still raging on as we head down the Wellington Straight. The sound you're hearing is Lando Norris with DRS closing up to the back of Max Verstappen as he punches on the brakes into the left-hander of Brooklands, which feeds into the right-hander of Luffield. Takes a much tighter line compared to Max Verstappen in front. That'll give him better traction on the exit. Can he get a little bit of toe, a little bit of slipstream off the back of the Red Bull as they head to the fastest corner on the circuit, turn 9, the right-hander of Copse, closing and closing, but not quite yet close enough to make a move.
No, but I think he is eyeing up a move down towards Stowe. He looks very comfortable through this section in these very slightly damper conditions. People are still setting purple and green sectors as Lando Norris comes up behind Max Verstappen. Is he going to go down the inside? He does, and he's got the move done. Brilliant stuff from Lando Norris up to third place, and you can hear the crowd. They love that.
Listen to that, the crowd roaring as Lando Norris, and that was great, clean racing as well between the two of them. But on this occasion, unlike in Austria, where it was neck and neck and it went over the line, it does seem like Verstappen and that Red Bull just doesn't have the pace compared to Lando Norris, who lined him up down the back straight with the aid of DRS, and Verstappen actually didn't really even bother moving or trying to defend.
Well, this is a long race, and in these conditions yesterday, these are the conditions that Max Verstappen made a mistake in. I think that maybe he's just a couple of % off in these conditions, you know, because yesterday he ruined his floor. He knows that if he does the same again today, he's not going to finish on the podium.
Yeah, they did replace the floor ahead of the race with the exact same specification of part, which you are allowed to do under the FIA regulations. So Verstappen now already falling back to almost a second behind Lando Norris. It's 3 Brits inside the top 3 as we are on lap 16 of 52 of the British Grand Prix.
We expect heavy rain now. It's going to happen soon.
So, heavy rain expected now, happening soon. Our weather app saying it is raining. We look out the window. I can't exactly see a lot of rain, but I look to our left and there's grey, ominous clouds. I look to our right and there's blue sky. Jenny Gow, can you fill us in?
It's so weird, isn't it? As you say, grey, ominous clouds, but they're not quite here yet. But this is such a long circuit that you can have rain in one part and it can be dry in another. Currently, the pit lane is not raining at the moment, but the teams are preparing themselves for pit stops.
And so too are the fans in the grandstands preparing themselves, getting the Packer Max on, umbrellas coming out as they try and find a little bit of shelter from the rain. And you're right, it's the 5th longest circuit on the calendar, just over 3.6 miles, almost 6 kilometres in length, as we get another little look at a move that happened earlier on. Kevin Magnussen getting round the outside of Daniel Ricciardo as he made his way through Brooklands and into Luffield. So Magnussen's up to 14th, Ricciardo falling down to 15th, and behind Ricciardo is Sergio Perez, who started from the pit lane and has made his way up to 16th at the moment and is within half a second of Ricciardo ahead of him. Bottas, Ocon and Zhou, the final few cars, as now lap 17 of 52, Russell leads Hamilton by 1.7 seconds. Lando Norris, having just got through on Max Verstappen and retaken 3rd position, now 2.8 seconds behind Hamilton in 3rd, but Verstappen is falling back and now into the clutches of the other McLaren of Oscar Piastri, who is closing right up to the rear end of that Red Bull as they make their way through Maggots and Beckett's, out through Chapel, down the hangar straight. That will give DRS to Oscar Piastri. The rear wing opens, he closes up, he moves to the right-hand side. Verstappen can't do anything to stop the Aussie from sliding down the inside. But is there a bit of rain coming down in Stowe? Because as Piastri made his way through the corner, he had a little bit of a twitch on the front end, but he's made the move work. It's Piastri up to 4th, Verstappen down to 5th.
It's raining, it's definitely raining in this final sector of the track, and it's just a case of how heavy it can be. Max Verstappen fighting back, but the McLarens in these conditions look very strong. Definitely raining.
The target would be to try to survive this pocket of rain, Max, if you can. Obviously your call if conditions worsen too much.
And Lewis Hamilton has closed up on the back of George Russell as well. Lewis Hamilton now looking like the aggressor.
Here we go, trying to survive the rain. 19 drivers still remain in this race. It's 3 British drivers in the top 3 positions. It's lap 18 of 52 of the British Grand Prix. George Russell leads, but he's now under huge pressure from his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who holds the record number of wins here. He's an 8-time winner, looking to become a 9-time winner around this track. It's still early stages, but he is closing up on the back of George Russell. Lando Norris is just a couple of seconds back in 3rd for McLaren, but it's the 2 Mercedes in 1 and 2, and we haven't seen that for a while as they make their way through Maggots and Beckett's, out onto the hanger straight. Russell trying to get out of the toe of Hamilton, but it will be writing on the wall with the toe, with the DRS. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead on the British Grand Prix to the roar of the grandstand on lap 18 of 52. It's Hamilton who leads Russell, Norris, Piastri and Verstappen, the top 5.
They loved that, didn't they, the crowd? They loved the fact that Lewis Hamilton is the race leader of the British Grand Prix. We've said it so many times, but I'll tell you what, Lando Norris is coming for them, and so is Oscar Piastri.
They both wide. Both Mercedes off, going through turn 3 Village. They cut the whole corner. This is coming through turn 2. They cut the whole corner, rejoin at Village. Both Mercedes running off. Rain is coming down. Norris slides down the inside of Russell. He gets up to second. Piastri went wide as well, further back. Verstappen tentatively making his way around in 5th. The rain is coming.
Yeah, they both rejoined very unsafely.
And that was the view from Lando Norris, and it was almost a carbon copy from both Mercedes, synchronised off-road driving. There was the runoff there, they could do that, and they did rejoin in 1 and 2, but Russell was then able, well, it was Norris was then able to get Russell second place. It's lap 19 of 52, the rain is coming down, Lewis Hamilton leads the British Grand Prix, Lando Norris is second, George Russell is third.
I can't tell you how difficult these conditions are, Harry. These conditions are so difficult. You can see the spray coming off the tyres as Lando has a huge moment in between Maggots and Beckett's. Look at how difficult this is. They're losing tyre temperature all the time. There's water in between the tarmac and the rubber that they're driving on. This is treacherous now. Now they've got to make a difficult call. What's the weather going to do over the next 10 minutes? If it's going to stay, they've probably got to think about going to inters as Lewis Hamilton is slow on the exit of Stowe and Lando Norris is closing in all the time.
Lando Norris under braking through the left-hander, then the right-hander of Vale, which leads you round the final corner of Club, back onto the main straight. Lando Norris has closed right up to the back of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton tries to defend, Norris to the inside, through turn 1. Norris takes the lead of the British Grand Prix. Norris through on Hamilton, who's down to second with his teammate Russell trying to sweep round the outside. Can they keep it on the track? That's where the rain is heaviest, coming through Village and into the loop. And it's Oscar Piastri, almost out of nowhere, who sweeps round the outside of Russell. Can you go too wide through there? Yes, you can. The Piastri nearly losing the rear end of his car, but the Aussie makes it through on Russell. Norris, Hamilton, Piastri is third, Russell down to 4th as Max Verstappen is now a few seconds back in 5th.
Absolutely, but Charles Leclerc critically has just pitted and we don't know what tyre he's gone onto. He's on an outlap. We presume he's gone to the intermediate tyre.
Our graphic says intermediates. We'll try and get a visual copy for you when we can. We haven't seen it on our screens, but Ferrari and Charles Leclerc then have seemingly gone for it. Sergio Perez has as well. He started from the pit lane on track. You're listening to the sound on board the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, who is right onto the back of Lewis Hamilton, out through Chapel, down the hanger straight. He won't get DRS. That's been disabled due to the wet conditions. The McLaren down the inside, through the right-hander of Stowe. It's a McLaren 1-2 at the British Grand Prix. Lando Norris leads Oscar Piastri. Lewis Hamilton is third. George Russell now down to 4th. The two Mercedes, who started this race in 1 and 2 and had led the first 15 or so laps, with the rain now coming down, have fallen to 3rd and 4th, and it's advantage McLaren.
I'm fine with this.
Luce, we think it's time to jump to inters. Let us know what you think.
No.
Okay, copy.
Just try in a lot of places.
Okay.
So Lewis wants to keep hold of his medium compound tyres. He thinks that's the best way round. He thinks that if he pits for inters, he'd lose too much time compared to if he stays on these medium compounds. Meanwhile, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are checking out.
Lap 21 of 52, Norris leads Piastri, 1.5 seconds is the gap. Hamilton now third ahead of Russell. Verstappen is fifth, and he's got Carlos Sainz closing right onto the back of him. None of the top 14 drivers have moved onto the wet compounder tyre, the intermediate tyre. Sainz is 6th, Hülkenberg 7th, Alonso 8th ahead of Stroll. Tsunoda is now inside the top 10. And as this battle bubbles up nicely, let's do a quick check-in with Jenny Gao.
Yeah, and McLaren have set their car up a little bit more for rain, so this is possibly suiting them more than we expected.
Well, There's 1.5 seconds between them at the moment, Andrew.
What Jenny's referring to there is McLaren running more downforce in this race than Mercedes. I think they were kind of regretting that decision if it was going to be a dry race, but actually in a wet race it's exactly what they need, and that almost certainly explains this greater confidence, Sam, that they appear to be experiencing, Norris and Piastri and the McLarens, compared to Hamilton, Russell and Verstappen behind them.
Absolutely. I'm watching the mini sectors of Charles Leclerc. He's grey in all mini sectors, which means he's not going quicker than what he's previously done. He is very, very slow right now compared to the likes of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, who are still setting green mini loops on their slick tyres. I think that Charles Leclerc and Ferrari have got this wrong. I think that the people that have stayed out on the medium compound tyres and braved that weather that we had for that 5-minute period have got it right.
It's too dry, man. It's too dry.
And point proven, Sam. That was Sergio Perez. But there is another band of rain on the way.
There's a big cloud on its way, a really big cloud.
But the problem is they've got to run on these inters in dry conditions until that rain hits. Well, they might destroy them.
Unless there's a safety car, I think their race is effectively kind of a little bit done by that decision so early on.
Well, Charles Leclerc is down to 16th now on that intermediate tyre. So too is Sergio Perez just behind. Esteban Ocon also pitted, but he was right at the back anyway. Zhou Guanyu has been pitted on the medium tyre bizarrely, now on the inters. He's 19th and last. Only 19 drivers remain in this race, with Pierre Gasly out before it even began. Lando Norris now has the lead of the British Grand Prix, having started in third, dropped down to fourth on lap 1, has regained now third, then second, and now leads a McLaren 1-2, with Oscar Piastri settling nicely into second. The two Mercedes, with the first band of rain starting to come down, have fallen to third and fourth. But none of the top 5, and that includes Max Verstappen in fifth, have braved it into the pit lane for an intermediate tyre. They are sticking with it on that dry medium tyre.
Well, the track is dry, Harry. The track is dry. We've just seen on the last lap, Lando Norris does the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30.860. Oscar Piastri's followed that up with his best lap, and Lewis Hamilton as well. The track is getting drier, although there's just been a weather alert, rain in 4 minutes' time.
It's very specific. Well, that buys us a little bit of time then, so we can check in with the Wimbledon updates and head to Katie Smith.
But Jasmine Paolini's into the quarterfinals. Horrible scenes though on court 1. Beat Madison Keys via retirement. The American in tears. She picks up a leg injury. Alcaraz, the defending champion on the men's side, leads by 2 sets to love, but he's a double breakdown in the third to Hugo Humbert, who leads 4-1.
Thanks, Katie. Lap 23 of 52 of the British Grand Prix is what you're listening to right now on BBC Radio 5 Live. Wimbledon coverage continues right now on 5 Sports Extra, and we'll be back on 5 Live at the conclusion of 52 laps of the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone, which is currently being led by a Brit. Lando Norris with a 1.7 second advantage over his teammate Oscar Piastri. Hamilton and Russell for the two Mercedes are third and fourth. Verstappen is fifth. Sainz, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Stroll and Tsunoda the top 10. With the likes of Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez having pitted for the intermediate tyre due to a small band of rain we had a few moments ago. That seems to have eased, but we're expecting a heavier band of rain within the next 2 to 3 minutes. DRS has just been enabled as we now almost play a bit of a waiting game to see what the next stage brings us. But how good is this race that we're watching right now?
How good is the race? How are we nearly halfway through this race?
That is,
it feels like we're just at the start, we're just getting going, but we're nearly halfway through, everybody. Rain imminent. We've got 2 McLarens leading the way ahead of 2 Mercedes. Max Verstappen in fifth. This is poised beautifully for the second phase of the race.
Lap 24 of 52. Lap 26 will be 50% distance.
This is the beginning of this 30-minute batch of rain, so we just have to find the right time to stop.
Okay, the beginning of a 30-minute batch of rain is what Lando Norris has just been told by his engineer, Will Joseph.
And it's coming down. Yeah. It's coming down already on the pit straight. I can tell you right now, there is rain on the way, and it's happening. So when does Lando Norris, when do the leaders actually decide to pit? They're almost on a kind of exploratory lap right now, deciding, is it too early or what's the right time? They're still setting some green sectors, and it's probably not wet enough just yet, but it's not going to be long.
Because they're going to have to pit eventually anyway, because the medium tyres they're going to be on are going to start to wear out. Degradation is quite low here. Got the hardest compound of tyre available that Pirelli have brought, but this is going to be crunch time.
You can't preempt the decision, Harry, because you can lose seconds, tens of seconds, if you get it wrong on these tyres. We've got a Red Bull crawling, Harry. Looks like, is that Perez?
I think that's Perez getting out of the way and being lapped by the leaders as he comes through the first sector. It is Sergio Perez, who is all the way down in 17th spot. He started from the pit lane and he's persisting with those intermediate tyres and holding out hope that this rain intensifies sufficiently for him to get back into this fight. So too is Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc is 36 seconds off the back of Valtteri Bottas in 15.
Yeah, that early stop and not braving it on the medium compounds has really hurt them. Both Charles Leclerc and Checo Perez now a lap down on the leaders. Their day is effectively done.
And that is 2 races in a row for Charles Leclerc, where his race has effectively been done before halfway distance, as he then runs out wide onto the grass through Chapel for good measure. Charles Leclerc rejoins and, well, continues to be lapped, but that Ferrari struggling, and that seems to be where there's a little bit more rain coming down.
Well, they've got no grip on those absolutely finished intermediate tyres. They've been running in the dry on them, so they've got no tread left. They are not working. So now it's damp, they're still not working. They're just completely on the wrong tyre.
Sergio Perez has just been lapped by his teammate Max Verstappen, who has stayed out on the medium tyre. Verstappen has got his old teammate Carlos Sainz right up behind him. Sainz has been closing on Verstappen for quite a while now.
It's too early for Inters, yeah.
The rain is back, but for Oscar Piastri, he still thinks it's too early for Inters. That was his radio message just there, and I think he's about right. But when will that crossover moment happen? You cannot pull the trigger too soon. You will lose too much time. Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez have learned the hard way on that one. Carlos Sainz is the only Ferrari still left in the fight for some good points here as he closes up to the back of Max Verstappen. But Verstappen at the moment driving a decent line as through Brooklands. Sainz having a little moment, has to back out of it, loses the rear end, but Verstappen also having his own little moment through the corner as they tentatively apply the throttle on the exit. But the rain is intensifying, as we can see with Sainz's struggles.
I don't think it's going to be too long now before they really consider it. This looks very tentative from Carlos Sainz. Only problem is, if they go to the Inters now, yes, they'll be quicker than what they're doing, but they'll absolutely chew up the Inters. There's got to be more standing water for those intermediates to actually work. As we see Oscar Piastri now hounding Lando Norris for the lead of this race.
Oscar Piastri is right in the wheel tracks of his teammate Lando Norris and almost loses the car coming through Vale into the double right-handers that see off a lap. Piastri saving that McLaren, pointing it in the right direction, lost a bit of time. Lap 27 of 52. The two McLarens fighting for the lead of this race. Lando Norris currently has the lead as Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz finally decide from 5th place and 6th place that they're going to come into the pits. Is the two McLarens that have stayed out though as Oscar Piastri closes up through the loop as they approach down the Wellington Straight through the left-hand kink. Piastri is going to have the momentum, is going to have the toe, and is going to close right onto the back of his teammate. How close do these two McLaren drivers fight as Piastri has another little moment coming through Luffield?
The problem that McLaren have got now is, do they double stack the cars? Because if one of them stays out and the rain intensifies, they could lose 15, 20, 30 seconds on that lap, as opposed to 4 or 5 by double stacking. This is now almost a concern that they're that close on the track in these conditions.
I think they've got a pit. Nico Hulkenberg comes in, so does Lance Stroll. Further back, Daniel Ricciardo's in the pits as well, and I imagine they're all going to come out on intermediate tyres.
Oscar Piastri has a huge... It looks so difficult out there. Please box, guys. Please give me a heart attack here.
That's the voice of McLaren Formula E driver Sam Bird. Alongside myself, Harry Bench, we've also got the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson in the booth. It's lap 27 of 52, making their way through the right-hander of Stone. Now, a lot more tentatively are Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. They're both sharing the same piece of tarmac. And what was going to happen? Are they going to come into the pits? Lando Norris does. So too does Lewis Hamilton. But Oscar Piastri stays out.
Oh, so Mercedes are going to double stack, and Lando is the only McLaren to pit. So this has really not worked in the favour for Oscar Piastri. And as we go to Jenny Gow.
Right, Lando Norris into the pits. They signal right by the Ferrari garage as well. Lewis Hamilton up on the jacks, back down into intermediates. A good stop for them. 2.8 for Norris. They're double stacking. George Russell now is up. It was a 3.1 second pit stop for Hamilton. Russell 3.3 seconds, and out in front is Piastri, but he hasn't stopped yet.
What would they clearly done some sort of calculation, McLaren, and thinking that we can't double stack, that's going to lose Piastri more time than it is staying out on the track in these conditions? Or is that just a sacrifice they've had to make?
It's a tough call, but it looks like double stacking was the right option. If you look at the lap times and the sector times that Oscar Piastri is doing, he's really suffering out there right now.
Lap 28 at 52, pit stops happening. The rain is coming down here at the British Grand Prix. It's now Oscar Piastri who leads in the McLaren, but he hasn't pitted yet. Let's check in with the latest at Wimbledon. Katie Smith.
Defending champion Carlos Alcaraz in a bit of trouble, so really progressing into the quarterfinals, he thought, leading by 2 sets to love, but has lost the third to Frenchman Hugo Humbert. Commentary on Sports Extra.
Yeah, live ball-by-ball commentary continues over on 5 Sports Extra, and we'll be back here on 5 Live at the end of 52 laps of the British Grand Prix. And so far it has been an enthralling race, mixed conditions, shaking things up nicely. Oscar Piastri will lose a heap of positions here.
Great call for the Inter. Come on, we're back in the race here.
As Max Verstappen, who pitted 1 lap ago to go on that intermediate tyre, along with Sainz, along with Russell, along with Hamilton and along with Norris, have all timed it right. And unfortunately for Oscar Piastri, who now does come into the pits, he will suffer, Jenny, greatly as he peels round the right-hander and heads towards his McLaren garage.
Yeah. He flashes past me that papaya orange. Their pit lane stop is right at the end of this pit lane. He pulls in Ferrari around at the same time, so he really has to weave in 22 men, lift that car up, put the inters on, and is out again. It looked like a good pit stop. 3.5, slightly slower, but is back out now. Where will he rejoin?
Meanwhile, while all of this has been going on, Max Verstappen, by pitting a lap earlier than Hamilton and Russell, has got in between the pair of them. So the lead order now, Lando Norris leads from Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen up to third. His engineer was right. Max Verstappen is back in the game.
Okay, Lewis, this is our time.
As Lewis is told, this is our time. He's 3.3 seconds back from Lando Norris. And if anybody loves mixed conditions, if anybody loves a bit of wet weather racing, it's the 7-time champion, Lewis Hamilton. He's won around this track 8 times. He's the most successful driver at this circuit. Could he do it 9 times? We'll wait to find out.
Yeah, I think that he'd be a great shout for the victory. The problem is now is the rain is there and it is slippery, but they've got to hold on to these inters for quite a long time. And there's not, it's raining, but it's not heavy rain. We're seeing a little bit of spray. The wettest area is down towards Stowe in Sector 3. Some of Sector 2 looks pretty dry still.
Well, the rain, we just heard on the somebody's radio, I've forgotten who it was, but they say the rain will go, they think, until around about lap 40. Right now it's lap 29. Lando Norris leads the British Grand Prix. It's 2 Brits in 1 and 2. Norris, Hamilton behind. Verstappen now third ahead of Russell. Sainz is fifth. Piastri, having stayed out an extra lap before coming in for the intermediate tyres, has fallen down to 6th. Hulkenberg in 7th, still running in the points ahead of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Another big gain that Yuki Tsunoda has found himself up into the points, currently 10th in that final points paying position.
I tell you what as well, Harry and Sam, Max Verstappen is still not quick. He wasn't quick in the first stint on the dries, and he's now onto the inters. He made the right decision to go a lap earlier than the others. He's got ahead of George Russell as a result, but he's lapping a second a lap slower than Norris, Hamilton and Russell around him, which is a real surprise because Verstappen is so good in the wet. So that Red Bull is just not on its A game today, it looks like to me.
Just saw Russell down the Wellington Straight, moving all the way to the inside, trying to find a bit more wet patches. I think that part of the track might be a little bit dry. He's on that intermediate tyres, a couple of seconds back now from Max Verstappen. He's 4 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. As we're told, the rain will be ending in 15 minutes. This is the sound of intermediate tyres coming off and then going on again on Sergio Perez, but a slow rear left, almost a 6-second pit stop to compound the Mexican's rather woeful weekend already. He falls all the way to the back. It's also been a tough race for Charles Leclerc, who qualified down in 11th, pitted too soon for the intermediate tyres, is now all the way down in 17th.
And Oscar Piastri, on the other hand, did the opposite. He pitted 1 lap too late. I bet you he wished he'd double stacked with his teammate Lando Norris. He finds himself down in 6th place right now, 2.1 seconds behind Sainz. He's got to do all that hard work again. He'd worked his way up beautifully from 5th to 2nd and hounding his teammate. Now he's in 6th. He's going to do a lot of work.
Tyres are taking a lot.
Copy that, Max.
See what I mean, Harry? It's not quite wet enough for the Inter, but it's definitely too wet for the slick. These conditions are so difficult.
This is when a driver's skill really is tested to the absolute limit, and we're seeing now what I saw a lap ago on the Wellington straight. George Russell, rather than taking the racing line, moves all the way to the left-hand side down the Wellington straight, and that's to try and find a bit more wet tarmac.
Just to cool that intermediate tyre down. He's putting so much energy into it that he's effectively melting it on the road, destroying the tread, which is the last thing you want to do. You destroy the tread, you basically affect the edges of the surface, then you run on those edges instead of on the nice flat bit. So yes, he's trying to find some water to try and cool the tyre down so that it will last longer, because if he continues at this pace, he's going to run out of tyre.
Okay, lap 31 of 52. How is the next half of this race going to unfold? Jenny Gal, let's see what you think.
I have no idea. Hamilton radio.
This rain's going to last for another 6 laps at least. There's no rain anymore, mate.
Well, there you go. There's no rain anymore is what you said, Jen.
That's the difficulty, isn't it? Part of this circuit has rain. Part of it's beautiful and sunny now. Pit lane, blue skies, sunny, and no rain at all. Just as the Perez was out there, he did 10 laps on his Inters before he had to come in and change onto another set of Inters. Dark tyre race for him.
Yeah, it's been a tough weekend for Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc, both down and out of this race for the time being, but all could still change. You're listening to the British Grand Prix. It's lap 32 of 52. Lando Norris leads Lewis Hamilton. The gap between them, 3 seconds. Could we get a British winner of the British Grand Prix in 2024? Verstappen is third and is not finding time in this race as Hamilton reports back on the radio with his front tyres suffering massively out there as the track was wet but is now too dry for the intermediate tyre. But is it quite dry enough to go back onto the slick tyre, a hard, a medium or a soft in this race? Verstappen is currently third. His last lap around, a 1:42.0. George Russell, who is behind him in fourth, his last lap around was a 1:41.9. And we can see, getting a great slow-mo shot of Max Verstappen's tyres.
Yeah, and there's literally pieces of rubber falling off that front left tyre. The front left is the tyre that takes the pounding around this circuit. Now, what do McLaren do now? They've got Lando Norris out front. Do they almost use Oscar Piastri as a bit of a guinea pig? They've got a huge gap to Nico Hülkenberg in 7th place currently. Soon they could look to get Oscar Piastri out on a slick tyre to give Lando Norris the information he needs to go, right, it's too early, or it's now. Let's go for the slicks.
So Piastri is the sacrificial lamb now?
Well, he was on the first stop, wasn't he, unfortunately, and he finds himself in 6th place. He's got a huge buffer to 7th. If McLaren want to win this race, maybe that's something that they could look at doing.
Well, Piastri is about a second, actually just under a second behind Carlos Sainz now. So Piastri is pushing out there and closing in on the Ferrari.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
However, they've got Lando Norris in the lead, and that information could be invaluable to keep him ahead of the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton.
It is still raining on the main straight. It's light, but as we look out of our commentary box, which overlooks the pit lane and the start-finish straight, there is light rain still coming down fairly consistently, but is it enough to really dampen the track enough to revitalise some of the intermediate tyres out there on track at the moment. 19 cars remain in this race, one retirement before the race even started in the form of Pierre Gasly's Alpine. The other Alpine having another lonely race of Esteban Ocon down in 18th. Joe Guan Yu is the last running car for Sauber in 19th. It's Norris who leads, 3.5 seconds the gap to Hamilton. Verstappen third, Russell fourth, Sainz and Piastri embroiled in a nice fight for 5th and 6th. Hulkenberg almost 18 seconds behind though, so as Sam was alluding to, a nice gap there which could fit nicely for a pit stop. Hulkenberg 7th, Stroll 8th, Alonso 9th, Tsunoda in the RB currently on course to steal the final points paying position.
We're on board now with Carlos Sainz going through Stowe. He's having quite a good Grand Prix, to be fair to him. He hasn't done anything yet, but he's actually stayed with the lead pack relatively well. Okay, right now 19 seconds adrift after the first. Retire the car, George Russell. Retire the car, George Russell.
Has been told to come into the pits, and he does so. He's been told to retire the car. Jenny Gao.
This is quite incredible. We had no sign of that, and all of a sudden he dashed into the pit lane. He's shaking his head. That blue helmet, so synonymous with George Russell. He started this in pole position. He snaps the visor up. He looks very unhappy.
So we need to box. So we'll retire the car, George.
I mean, you heard the bleeps. You can tell the frustration on the radio from George Russell. That literally came out of the blue for us. We'll try and find the information out as to why Mercedes have decided to retire George Russell. Clearly an issue on that car. But Russell, who started this race on pole position, will now not even end it and will not have any points to go home from the British Grand Prix with. Russell out of this race. That promotes Alex Albon up into the points in 10th. Andrew Benson, the BBC's F1 correspondent, what can you tell us?
Well, we've just had a message from Mercedes saying it was a suspected water system issue with Russell, so that seems like perhaps a water leak in the engine or a loss of water pressure, something like that. Obviously that's going to lead to an imminent engine failure. Mercedes were trying to, the engines have sort of fail-safe systems to stop massive damage happening in those sorts of circumstances.
Well, for the man who won the Austrian Grand Prix last week out of absolutely nowhere, will leave his home Grand Prix with 0 points to show for it. And that is one Brit out of the equation.
Just info, George retired with a suspected water system issue.
So that's Lewis Hamilton's radio. Jenny Gao down in the pit lane, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've spoken to the team. They said that the water system issue started degrading for several laps, and that forced the retirement. So they were aware of the issue, and that's the end of his game.
Thanks, Jenny. Sam, is that something the other car might be worried about?
I mean, there's so many technicians and engineers keeping an eye on every single element of the power unit and gearbox involved in a Formula One car. Kevin Magnussen on board. What are we going to see here? He turns into Stowe, hits the apex, bit of curb on the exit. Nearly loses it on the exit into the inside wall. We've seen that so many times over the years. That was, well, I mean, good save. They'll be keeping an eye on it, Harry, but I don't think it's anything necessarily right now for Lewis Hamilton to be concerned about. It's never something that you want to hear, because then you do start hearing noises in your own helmet. What was this? What was that? But for now, Lewis Hamilton is continuing to try his best and try and catch Lando Norris, who seems in these conditions, well, actually on the last lap, Lewis Hamilton was 0.3 of a second quicker than Lando Norris, and in turn Max Verstappen has turned up the speed and gone 0.3 quicker than Lewis Hamilton.
And Verstappen is about 7 seconds back from Lewis Hamilton, as we're told the rain is ending in the next 5 or so minutes. Whether that actually comes to fruition, well, we'll find out in the next 5 minutes or so. Lap 36 of 52 of the British Grand Prix. Lando Norris leads by just over 2 seconds from the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton in second. Max Verstappen is third. Then it's Carlos Sainz, who has now built a little bit more of a gap to Oscar Piastri, who was right in the wheel tracks of the Spaniard, but Piastri now almost 2 seconds behind in 5th. Nico Hulkenberg currently up in 6th, but almost 20 seconds behind Piastri. That could be a nice gap for a pit stop. Lance Stroll, 7th, ahead of Fernando Alonso. Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon is in the top 10. Then it's Magnussen in 11th, Sargent 12th, Ricciardo, Bottas, Leclerc having a miserable day in the Ferrari is 15th, ahead of Sergio Perez, an equally miserable day. Esteban Ocon is 17th, with Zhou Guanyu in 18th, and now the last of the cars, as Russell and Gasly have both retired from this race. Norris is told Mercedes have only soft or hard tyres. And did you catch the end of that message, Sam?
We have mediums if we want. As Lewis Hamilton, he's right on the back now.
I think he's just.
That's a lapped car.
I think that's a lapped car. It's the Sauber. It's It's Zhou Guanyu.
But as we can see right now from our commentary booth, Harry, the sun is out. Okay, there's still some small spits of rain, but the sun is out. This track's going to dry, and it's going to dry very, very quickly. Don't be surprised if in the next 3-4 laps we get to see everybody coming in again.
The sun's coming out.
You're beating it.
It's like, I'm in their head, I reckon, Harry. I'm right there.
That was Lewis Hamilton's radio. I think, they've clearly got 5 Live on in the garage and in the radio.
Well, they've got it in their earpieces in the car,
Standard, up and down the Formula 1 teams. OK, then, well, the sun is coming out, so, Jenny Gow, you can put the brolly away.
I was really hoping that someone else would come on the radio and say hip, 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 hooray, but it didn't happen, alas. I've spoken to Mercedes. They say no sign of the same problem for Lewis Hamilton's car. Remember that George Russell's had to retire with a water system issue.
Thanks, Jenny. That is the voice of Jenny Gow, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, up in the commentary box. With me is the McLaren Formula E driver, Sam Bird, and the BBC's F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson. Lando Norris leads this race by 2 seconds. But it is not easy out there on track, and it has not been easy. Mixed conditions, not quite wet enough, but not quite dry enough. It's the ultimate Goldilocks situation.
Oh, it's a really tough situation to be in. These intermediate tyres now are shot to pieces for pretty much everybody. It's just a case of getting them round as best as you can until you can then change to slicks. And do you know who the master of that is, Harry?
Tell me.
The guy in second, Mr. Lewis Hamilton, over 100 Grand Prix wins, won here 8 times, going for his 9th win here. This is the last time that this crowd get to see him in a Mercedes race suit and race car before he then switches to Ferrari. He would dearly love to give the Mercedes fans, the fans that are true to the team in Brackley, one more shot at victory.
15 laps to go of the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton currently sits in second. The last time he was on the top step of the podium at the British Grand Prix was back in 2021, but he's got to overcome a 1.7 second gap to his compatriot Lando Norris, who has never stood on the top step of the podium for the British Grand Prix. And Lando Norris, who has been flying since Miami, since the beginning of the season, really. He has been sublime and has been showing himself as a man that can take it to Max Verstappen when the opportunity arises. Here is Verstappen.
Still happy staying out for the moment, Max? You're faster than the cars ahead. Keep it going.
Well, that's an ominous message. Verstappen is third, being told you're faster than the cars ahead. So faster than Hamilton, faster than Norris. Last lap around for Verstappen, a 1:38.8. Compare that to Lewis Hamilton's, a 1:39.7. And another 1:39.7 for Lando Norris as well. That gap between Norris and Hamilton ebbing and flowing at around 2 seconds.
I think the cut-off to go to slicks is very, very soon. They're already in the high 38s.
The cars do not have medium. Currently, we think medium is the right tyre. 15 laps to go. Yes, it's the best.
Okay, so that's Piastri. So they think the medium tyre is the best way to go as Magnussen comes out of the pits, and I think he was on the soft.
He was indeed on the soft.
So too does Ricciardo coming in. So they've decided now is the time. Lap 38. They're getting rid of the intermediate tyres. Those further back, those out of the points, are risking it. Magnussen, Ricciardo, Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton comes into the pit, and he's followed by Max Verstappen. So Lando Norris stays out. Jenny Gow.
Yes, so Lewis Hamilton into the pit, so's Max Verstappen. It's a slightly slow hold for Lewis Hamilton, but he is back out. Verstappen gets out really quickly. That's a 2.2 second stop for Verstappen, 2.9 for Hamilton.
Feeding out into the sunshine that now overlooks this Silverstone circuit. Piastri comes into the pits as well, so it's opposite way round for McLaren on this occasion. Norris is staying out. He has a 21-second gap to Carlos Sainz in second, who was also elected to stay out for another run around on the Inters, but surely they're going to have to come into the pits at the end of this lap.
Yeah, it'll be box, box, box for Lando Norris. Push now and get rid of those intermediate tyres. Lewis Hamilton on the soft, what can he do on this outlap? Can he bridge that gap and overtake Norris?
As Lando Norris is told to box, box, making his way around the circuit at the moment. Pit stops unfolding. Before that all unfolds, let's head to Katie Smith for another Wimbledon update.
Where defending champion Carlos Alcaraz's been taken to a fourth set in his fourth round match against Ugo Humbert. Leads by a break, though, does Alcaraz in that fourth set. World number one Yannick Sinner just getting underway on court one against the American Ben Shelton. But the rain has descended here at the All England Club, so no play currently on the outside courts.
Okay, so we can choose a medium to cover people like Verstappen, or we choose a soft to cover people like Hamilton.
That's Lando Norris on the radio. He has come into the pits. Wimbledon coverage continues, by the way, on 5 Sports Extra and on 5 Live after us at the British Grand Prix. Into the pits, Jenny Gow for Lando Norris.
Yes, it's a slightly slow pit stop. He missed his marks, which are so specific. Let's see what it is. It's gone into the slicks, a 4.5 second stop. I can't see what he's slipped onto, but it's interesting that they're soft, medium and hard for all of the top race leaders.
Lando Norris feeds out in second. Lewis Hamilton retakes the lead of the British Grand Prix. A slow stop for Lando Norris. He ran late into his marks outside of the garage. That delayed the whole pit stop by a couple of seconds, and that is the gap between Hamilton and Norris now out on track, both on the softest rubber there is, the soft tyre, the Red Bull compound. Hamilton leads 2.1 seconds to Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen, who pitted, he went on to the hard compound tyre. He's in third, Piastri in fourth, Sainz fifth, as Hülkenberg and Stroll both come into the pits. And if you can hear me shout over the roars of the crowd, then you're doing well, because they have just screamed their hearts out at Lewis Hamilton taking the lead of the British Grand Prix.
Oh, this is really heart in your mouth stuff now. If you're a British motorsport fan, who are you supporting, guys? I mean, obviously I've got Papaya on, but this is fantastic, isn't it? We've got the greatest of all time versus the guy trying to replace him as the sweetheart of British motorsport. He goes too long. It's so slippery in the pit lane on that concrete surface that's damp. And as he gets onto the soft tyre, loads of wheel spin, leaving this pit lane. Lewis Hamilton on hot, soft tyres, sweeps round turn one and takes the lead easily. Now, what does Lando Norris do? Can he get after Lewis Hamilton?
And what about the Red Bull of Max Verstappen? Carlos Sainz pitted, and he came out on the hard compound tyre as well. Both Verstappen and Sainz on the hard. Here's Hamilton.
So Norris, same tyre.
Leave me to it, mate.
Lewis Hamilton just wants to be left alone to do the job that he knows how to do better than the rest. Lap 41 of 52. He has got a British Grand Prix victory in sight. His 9th British Grand Prix victory. 2.5 seconds to his compatriot Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen not out of the count in third.
Oh, I tell you, this is why we love Formula One, isn't it? Races like today, so exciting. Do you know what? I wouldn't mind Lewis Hamilton winning this race. I really wouldn't. Do you know what? He's been so good for Formula One and for British motorsport, and he hasn't won in 2 years, guys. 2 years. This guy's a machine at winning. He's now out front. He's told Peter Bonington, his engineer, leave me to it. I know what to do. I can get race wins done.
It's more than 2 years, Sam. He hasn't won since the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at the end of 2021. His big title battle with Max Verstappen.
So can you imagine how hungry he is? I mean, when you haven't had a win in a long time, it hurts. And that would have hurt him. He's got this chance now. He's got 11 laps to negotiate with a young Lando Norris breathing down his neck and Max Verstappen charging at them both. Can he hold on for a famous British Grand Prix win?
Could he do it? He's already an 8-time winner around this track. Could he make it 9 in what will be a farewell tour for Lewis Hamilton driving for Mercedes? He departs the team at the end of the year. He'll be back next year, but he'll be dressed in red for Ferrari. 2.5 seconds the gap to Norris.
I tell you what, it looks like we've got a grandstand finish coming here, because like Hamilton's in the lead, Norris is closing in on him, and Verstappen's closing in on both of them. And behind them, albeit 10 seconds behind, Oscar Piastri's going even faster than all three of them.
He is flying. He's actually just set the fastest lap of this race so far, has Oscar Piastri. But you are right, he has got 10 seconds to overcome with around just over 10 laps left of this British Grand Prix. Where has the time gone? Where have the laps gone for this British Grand Prix? It's been a thriller right from the start. Sainz 5th, Hulkenberg a magnificent 6th for Haas, Stroll 7th, and what will be a good day for Aston Martin if they can hold on to 7th and 8th with Alonso just behind. Yuki Tsunoda has snuck up into the points. The Japanese driver started down in 13th. He's now up to 9th with Alex Albon on course at the moment to steal the final point in 10th. Kevin Magnussen is 11th, ahead of Sargent. Ricciardo's 13th, Bottas is 14th. Then a day and a race to forget for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc and the Red Bull of Sergio Perez. The wrong tyres at the wrong time for each of those two. Then it's Esteban Ocon in 17th, Joe Guanyu 18th and last of the drivers, with George Russell retiring and Pierre Gasly out of this race before it even began. 10 laps to go, Sam Bird. Which way's it going to go?
I don't know, but I wish I'd worn my MyZone heart rate monitor during this, because I could have faked a workout. This has been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I mean,
other heart rate monitors are available, by the way.
Yeah, but the one that I've got is that one. Anyway, as you said, Andrew, you've got Lewis Hamilton having to try and fend off two faster cars behind him. They are coming from, even though last lap, Lewis Hamilton needs to have 4 tenths to Lando Norris on the last lap. So has Lewis Hamilton just about done enough? And Max Verstappen, just closing in.
The fastest lap.
Yeah, just set the fastest lap compared to Lando Norris. He's gained 6 tenths on him. 6 tenths.
Verstappen's on the harder tyre as well. Verstappen is now flying, and at the start of this race, Verstappen and Red Bull seem to really struggle for outright pace.
I'm actually surprised McLaren chose the soft tyre for this last stint, because the soft tyre has been graining all weekend. McLaren saw Mercedes were kind of talking yesterday as if they would use the soft in the race. So I'm not surprised that Hamilton's put it on, but McLaren were talking about it graining, so that's where it tears up on the surface and loses grip. And they offered Norris the medium, because that was the medium tyre they thought was favoured. Piastri's on it, but Norris isn't. And I wonder, with Verstappen closing in on them, he's about to set another. Mind you, Norris is also setting a fastest lap. Norris and Verstappen going almost exactly the same pace. It's really too close to call. I'll stop talking about tyres now.
Yeah, Norris with the fastest lap. Then Verstappen. Hamilton leads though. That 2-second gap holding out.
Oh, so Lando Norris has now gone half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening, Harry. It could go either way. It could go 3 ways.
It could go Hamilton. It could go Norris. It could go Verstappen. Either way, we are going to be in for an amazing end to the British Grand Prix, the 75th British Grand Prix, the 59th held at this superb track here in Silverstone. The grandstands are absolutely packed out, so too are the campsites. It's a proper festival atmosphere with music acts going late into the night, but the main reason everybody is here is to see 20 Formula One racing cars going absolutely hell for leather around this beautiful track, and so far that has delivered today. We could get a British winner. It could be Hamilton, Norris, or this man.
We're seeing signs of damage on the front left for the cars ahead.
Verstappen being told we're seeing signs of damage on the front left for the cars ahead. So that's Norris and Hamilton. They're on the soft, Verstappen on the hard. So effectively, Sam, Verstappen's tyres should last longer and hold up better than Norris and Hamilton
They should do, but he's got to catch them first, then he's got to pass them. Wins at a single circuit. We're seeing Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton on 8. We know that Lewis Hamilton is on 8 here. Do you think, guys, that this would be one of, if not his most favourite win after such a long time of not winning, the longest in his entire motorsport career? Since he was a 6-year-old kid, he's always won. This has been his longest barren spell. If he can get this across the line, I think this is up there with one of his best.
I'm going to predict right now that if he does that, he's going to say it feels like his first win almost.
Well, for the man that announced at the start of the year, before racing had even begun, that he would be departing the Mercedes team, for whom he has enjoyed the bulk of his success with in Formula One. He'll join the Scarlet Red team next season, replacing Carlos Sainz to line up alongside Charles Leclerc. But a farewell tour this year with Mercedes, and what a way to honour the Brackley-based team by getting another win under his belt at the British Grand Prix, a 9th win for Lewis Hamilton. He's still got a way to go though, and Lando Norris is in second, 2 seconds behind. Verstappen is third. He has closed up, has the fastest lap, 2 seconds again behind Norris. It's a 3-way fight for the lead, but the laps are going by.
Let's not forget as well, George Russell won the Austrian Grand Prix. This would make it 2 in a row for Mercedes. Are Mercedes properly back in Formula One?
Well, for George Russell, last time out in Austria, he was the receiver of good fortune when it came to both Verstappen and Lando Norris finding each other and then finding themselves in the pit lane and effectively out of the race. But could it be Mercedes back-to-back wins? Could it be Russell followed by Hamilton? We have a few more laps to find out.
Harry, I have to say, Max Verstappen is looking very, very ominous at the moment. He's closing right up to the back of Lando Norris. It's 1.3 seconds now. It was 1.7 seconds at the end of the last lap. They're coming around to Copse Corner onto the Hanger Straight. He's not far off getting the DRS on Lando Norris. There's still 6 laps to go.
The voice of reason as always, Andrew Benson, keeping us well and truly grounded. Verstappen is putting in some brilliant lap times and is sliding that Red Bull beautifully through Maggots and Beckers and then out onto the Hanger Straight as he chases down the McLaren of Lando Norris. And we can see on the pictures all 3 of them in the same shot down the Hanger Straight. This is poised to be a grandstand finish. While this battle continues to unfold, just bring you up to speed with a couple of other things that are happening out on track. The other close battle is actually for 9th place. Alex Albon is 6/10 ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. So that is a battle brewing quite nicely indeed. I think Albon has managed to get through on Tsunoda a few moments ago, but that may not be many points, but it is certainly big points for those 2 teams further down the Constructors' Championship. Okay.
Lewis Hamilton needs Lando Norris to do him a favour here, I think. We've got Verstappen's closed up. He's now 1.3 seconds behind, 1.1 as they go down the Wellington straight towards Brooklands. Sam, how nervous are you feeling in your orange T-shirt?
It's like torture right now, guys. Really torture. But what a Grand Prix. I cannot believe how exciting this race has been. Really edge of your seat stuff. Verstappen absolutely on it at the moment. Just over a second behind Lando Norris. It's inevitable that he's going to be getting DRS soon, and once he does, we know how strong the Red Bull is in a DRS zone. It simply blasts past cars.
The sound of Lando Norris making his way through Maggots and Beckett's. 1 second the gap between himself and Max Verstappen. That's just dipped now under a second to within DRS range for Verstappen. The drag reduction system, the rear wing flap will fly open, gives the car behind around about 14 kilometers per hour, an advantage over the car ahead. Not quite close enough on that occasion for Verstappen, but will Lando Norris fight this hard? 5 laps to go. Has he got enough left in that McLaren to keep Verstappen at bay? They banged wheels this time last week. That'll be weighing on both of their minds as they make their way down towards turn 4.
Did you just say, will he fight him hard? You bet he'll fight him hard. Of course he will. He wants that second place. I actually think right now, dare I say it, Lewis Hamilton has this covered off. Barring a mistake, I think he's got it covered up with 4 laps to go with a 3-second lead. But the real battle right now is between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris as Max Verstappen cruises up to the back of Lando Norris through the slow stuff. He's right there, Harry, he's right there.
Out the right-hander of Luffield, which leads you on to the old pit straight, now called the Hamilton Straight, down towards the fastest corner on this circuit. Copse almost flat-out right-hander, where Verstappen and Hamilton came to blows in 2021. Verstappen not close enough to Norris on this occasion. It's single file through Maggots and Beckers, the technical part of this lap, as it feeds out then onto the Hanger Straight, out through Chapel. This is where Max Verstappen will get the DRS. The rear wing will fly open for the Dutchman. He closes up to the back of Norris. Norris moves to the inside, but he can't do anything about it. Verstappen sweeps round the outside through Stowe. Verstappen up into second. Norris down to third.
The Red Bull's so strong in a straight line, and we know that McLaren is set up a little bit more for the wet conditions. It's suffering in a straight line here, and Max Verstappen does yet again the fastest lap of the race. Can he set after Lewis Hamilton? 3.3 seconds up the road with 3 laps to go.
Over a second a lap. If anyone could do it, it'd probably be Max Verstappen. He is looking ominous. He's picked off Lando Norris's third position, and he set it all off through Maggots and Beckett's with aid of DRS and the toe. Norris moved to the inside, but in the end, it was easy for Verstappen.
Absolutely, 4 laps to go. 4 laps Max Verstappen has got to catch and pass Lewis Hamilton for the win.
Hamilton leads. 3 seconds the gap now between himself and Verstappen. Norris in third, Piastri fourth, Sainz is fifth, Hülkenberg on course for a best result of the season in sixth. Lance Stroll is seventh, Fernando Alonso eighth, Alex Albon ninth, Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the final points paying position in 10th. Then it's Logan Sargent in 11th ahead of Kevin Magnussen in 12th, Daniel Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc in 13th. Sergio Perez has come into the pits to most likely end a pretty miserable day for the Mexican in the Red Bull. Ocon is 17th, Zhou Guanyu 18th, and the last running driver, George Russell, retiring from this race, the pole sitter, having no points to show for his brilliant displays across the weekend here in Silverstone. Pierre Gasly, the other driver for Alpine, who failed to start this race. 3 laps to go of the British Grand Prix. It's Hamilton versus Verstappen for the win. What year is it? It's 2024, and it is game on. But is time running out for Max Verstappen? Has Lewis Hamilton done all he can to hold on to this one?
So they've put Sergio Perez, is he going to hold it? No, he's done the right thing, Sergio Perez. I thought for a minute Red Bull had put Sergio Perez out there to just hold up Lewis Hamilton enough so that Verstappen could get in DRS, but Sergio Perez stayed well out of the way.
Yeah, and they are coming through a little bit of traffic at the moment. They've made their way past Ocon. Hamilton's approaching Ricciardo, Magnussen and Sargent, so that could slow Hamilton up a little bit. Verstappen is right on the back of Perez now, coming through the right-hander of Copse, and immediately gets through. Perez gets well out of the way of his teammate. Perez down in 16th now, having stopped 4 times in this race, started from the pit lane, and will be wanting to put this British Grand Prix, and indeed this triple header of racing, which started back at the Spanish Grand Prix, well and truly behind him, and regroup in time for the final couple of rounds ahead of the August summer break, when the Formula One shutdown ensues. That 50 of 52 of the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton leads. Just under 3 seconds the gap between himself and Max Verstappen. A 2-time winner here. Knows what it takes to win around this Silverstone circuit, and it has not been the most straightforward of races.
It has not been straightforward at all. There's been mix of conditions, change of leaders. It's been one of my favourite Silverstone races that I can certainly remember for a long time. This brings me back to Hamilton 2008 when he won that brilliant race in the wet. We know he's the master of all conditions here at Silverstone, and he's on the verge. He's 11 kilometers away from making Formula One history by winning his 9th race here at Silverstone.
Brits in action here in Formula One. Brits in action at Wimbledon as well. Emma Raducanu getting ready to play, and we'll have live coverage of that right here on BBC Radio 5 Live, following the checkered flag of the British Grand Prix. And Lewis Hamilton making his way. He'll know that there is a race win within sight. He has driven superbly, and Mercedes as a team have done a brilliant job in the last few races of finally finding a way forward for the Silver Arrows. They haven't understood this regulation change, the ground effect regulation change that's been in place for the last couple of years. It's ultimately led to the departure of Lewis Hamilton at the end of this season when he goes to Ferrari for 2025 and beyond. but could it be a fairy tale end for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes at the British Grand Prix? And could it end with another Grand Prix victory? He starts the final lap now. Verstappen within 2.5 seconds now. It's a tough order for the Dutchman to try and hunt down his old championship rival. And are we witnessing Mercedes back in the game here, consistently in Formula One? At the start of this year, we were writing the whole season off. We thought it would be Max Verstappen, Red Bull dominance. That has not proved the case in the last few races, the last couple of months. Right now, we have Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, all fighting.
2 wins in a week for Mercedes, it looks like, as Lewis Hamilton goes down the back straight. He's got to negotiate 4 more corners, that's it. Max Verstappen's too far back. He's 2 seconds adrift, but there's no way he can get onto the back of Lewis Hamilton.
Round the right-hander of Stowe, the grandstands are absolutely packed with British fans up on their feet. Verstappen looming, but he's not close enough. And for Lewis Hamilton, it is the fairy tale farewell for Mercedes and himself at the British Grand Prix as he makes it 9 wins at Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix, his first win since 2021. Now 104 Grand Prix wins for the 7-time champion. He beats the rest of the field to the flag. Hamilton, Verstappen in second, and Lando Norris makes it 2 Brits on the podium. Norris in third, Piastri fourth. But that was mighty, that was magnificent, that was Lewis Hamilton.
That was incredible, absolutely incredible, and I couldn't be happier for Lewis Hamilton. He's waited so long for that, and the best ever has notched up another win.
And lining up side by side on the cool-down lap, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, all giving a wave and a round of applause to Lewis Hamilton. Let's hear what he has to say.
Get in there, Lewis! You're the man! You're the man! Oh, mate, I have been waiting for this. Jeez. Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot. It means a lot to get this one. A big thank you to all the fans here. Love you guys. Yes, mate.
We will prevail. We never give up. And what a sign-off for our joint trajectory here on the British Grand Prix. We couldn't wish for anything better.
You can hear what it means, the emotion roaring through Lewis Hamilton's voice. Toto Wolff too. Let's head straight down to Jenny Gow.
I'm here with Anthony Hamilton. Your boy did it!
Yes, absolutely.
How are you feeling?
I don't know, I'm just overwhelmed.
That was nerve-wracking. Did you think Max would do it?
No. I knew, look, there's no way Lewis was going to ever allow Max to win the British Grand Prix with 3 seconds in hand on him. So, no surprise.
It was amazing. His 104th win, but round Silverstone in a Mercedes. Is that special for you?
Always special. It's funny, I was on the grid taking some photos of Lewis as the last time we'll sit in a Mercedes car on the grid, and this is, fit into the end of our year with them.
Do you reckon this will be one of his greatest wins?
This I tell you, he won't sleep forever.
Anthony, well done. Go and celebrate.
And beautiful to see you as well. You look after yourself.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Great work, Jenny. Great work, Team Hamilton and Team Mercedes. He's given a British flag. Let's head back down to Jenny, who's with Toto Wolff.
I am. Toto, what a day.
Yeah, what a day. I'm so happy. So happy for him, so happy for the team. Winning the British Grand Prix. Final one between Mercedes and him. Great.
And the fans, they absolutely adore this. So this is their moment, and this is Lewis Hamilton's moment and Mercedes' moment.
It is, absolutely. It's a fairy tale how we're signing that Grand Prix off.
How do you rate this race win?
He was so in control for a long time. Managed it well at the end. Yeah, all good.
Celebrate, won't you? I'm sorry for George, but this is great for you guys. Well done.
Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, there speaking with Jenny Gow. Hamilton on the radio again.
12 metre lots of school.
Love you, Bono.
I love you, Bono. The message to his engineer, Pete Bonington. Where does Bono's future lie? Does he follow Lewis Hamilton to Mercedes? That will all be answered over the course of the season. 12 races down, 6 different winners in Formula One in 2024. Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and the winner of the 12th round, the winner of the British Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes, who could barely get out of his car in Parc Fermé. The emotion overriding him as he hauls himself out now, takes the steering wheel off, greeted by his Mercedes mechanics with an immediate embrace. And that, well, we'll be debating this, won't we, Sam, in the Checker Flag podcast as one of Lewis Hamilton's greatest wins, but certainly one that will long last in his memory and all of ours.
This was... he's done it 104 times, and we can remember quite a few of them. This one, for me, is right at the top of the pile.
Let's head back down to Jenny.
Oh, the crowd are celebrating. They were saying, Lewis, Lewis. And he's just got out of the car. He held the Union flag aloft, and now he's running down the pit lane towards his team. He will celebrate this with them so much. This is a Mercedes victory. This is a Lewis Hamilton victory around Silverstone, his home. And they are embracing him, slapping on the back, slapping on his helmet. It's scenes of such joy. And the team come around me. Andrew Slovelin's here. He's the chief... what's your title, Andrew?
Trackside Engineering Director is the proper one, but...
That's the proper one. Just a great friend of mine. And Mercedes, it's such a moment for you guys and for your careers and Lewis Hamilton.
They're absolutely fantastic. I mean, the car's been better, but for Lewis to do that here is just brilliant. Shame to lose George because he was looking great as well. So we need to work out what went wrong there. But you couldn't have written this. It's just perfect for Lewis, for all his fans, Mercedes fans, and just delighted with the result.
Is this Mercedes back?
I hope so. A lot of work has gone on over the last 2 or 3 months, and yeah, I really do hope we're back fighting at the front.
Go and celebrate. Well done. Look at that. The crowd are loving this.
Thanks, Jenny. Speaking with the Trackside Engineering Director for Mercedes, Andrew Shovlin. And a home win, not just for driver, as Jen said, for team as well, who have been through some of the lowest times in their Formula One history over the last couple of years. Mercedes, based in Brackley, just 9 miles away from this circuit. This is a victory for Lewis Hamilton. This is a victory for Toto Wolff and the top-ranking management of Mercedes, but it is an absolute win for all that work at Brackley to try and improve this Mercedes, which has been, let's face it, a dog of a car over the last few seasons. But finally, as Lewis Hamilton emotionally hugs his father, Anthony Hamilton, finally begins to take his helmet off, you can see and hear how much it means. Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix, Verstappen second, Lando Norris third, 2 Brits on the podium, Piastri fourth, Carlos Sainz ended up in 5th, ahead of a fantastic 6th place for Nico Hülkenberg. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso make it a double-point score for Aston Martin. Alex Albon in 9th. Vital points for Williams, so too for RB, with Yuki Tsunoda getting the final point in 10th. Sargent 11th, Magnussen 12th, Ricciardo, Leclerc finished 14th, Valtteri Bottas 15th ahead of Ocon. Sergio Perez's day well and truly done, down in 17th, and Zhou Guanyu, the last of the finishers, in 18th in his Sauber. George Russell will be disappointed not to come away with any points after a retirement for his side of the garage. Pierre Gasly in the Alpine didn't even start this race. And Lewis Hamilton onto the track with the Union flag and just lapping it all up from the main grandstand. And you know what, you can tell in his demeanour, Sam, over the last few races, when Mercedes have made a step front. I suppose we saw it first in Canada, and it hasn't been all Lewis Hamilton's way, but certainly now it is going. Let's hear from the top three with Jenson Button.
I'm sure very mixed emotions here in front of the home crowd. It looked like you were the man to beat out there. Your skill in those tricky conditions, getting to the front, was exceptional, but not the result you were after.
Yeah, no. I mean, first of all, congrats to Lewis. That crucial decision at the end, he just did a better job on, so hats off to him and Mercedes, so they deserve it. It was tough. It was enjoyable. It was fun battling these guys, and these tricky conditions are always, like on a knife edge, and you're risking a lot. So many things good, but a few too many letdowns today. And as a team, I don't think we did quite the job we should have done or good enough. But still lovely to be on the podium here in Silverstone.
What I love about you is I just said to you, your time will come to win the British Grand Prix, and you said I don't want time. You are ready. You are ready, aren't you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not making the right decisions. At the same time, I blame myself today for not making some of the right decisions. But I hate it. I hate ending in this position and ever having excuses for not doing a good enough job. But I'm so happy. I'm still going to enjoy it. I think we still did so many things right, so many positives. But especially here in Silverstone, the one place I would love for everything to go perfectly. It didn't today, but I'm good. We'll come back stronger next year and try again.
Cool. Thank you, Lando. Big round of applause for Lando Norris.
Thank you.
The 7th podium of this season for Lando Norris. Finish the British Grand Prix in 3rd. Here's Verstappen in 2nd.
That was a better result than I was expecting, looking at most of the race. Half the race, you were on the back foot. You had 2 Mercedes, 2 McLarens pulling away from you, but you were able to pull out a pretty good result in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we just didn't have the pace today. I was slowly dropping back when it mattered in the beginning. So it didn't look great at some point. I was really thinking, are we going to finish 5th, 6th? But we made the right calls. Going from the slicks to the inters, and then also from the inters back to the slicks. I think it was every time the right lap. And then also at the end the call from the team to be on the hard tire instead of the soft was definitely helping me out. That's why I think we also finished 2nd today. So it could have been a lot worse, but when making the right calls, we still got onto the podium, and I'm of course very happy with that.
How was it out there? Because it looked extremely difficult. It wasn't either wet or dry for a lot of it. It was that real difficult decision to make, either staying on the slicks or going on the inters.
Yeah, when it started to rain for the first time, of course I was already dropping back. I was struggling for grip, so I didn't want to take too many risks, and I saw the guys ahead of me, they were really going for it. So I just tried to hang in there, not going off the track. And that was quite tricky. But then at one point it really started to come down, and then it was quite obvious that you had to go to the inter. Then you had to make the tire last as long as you could. And then suddenly also the sun came out, and the track really started to dry up quickly. But still, you feel quite comfortable on the inter. But at one point you just have to gamble, to go to the slick. And luckily it all worked out well.
Nice work.
Right,
Thanks, Max.
Good work indeed from Max Verstappen, finishing the race in 2nd. 1.4 seconds in the end, back from Lewis Hamilton.
British Grand Prix. I've witnessed obviously your whole career in F1 and the achievements you've had, 104 victories now, but I've never seen you quite this emotional after a race.
Yeah, I can't stop crying. I think it's been since 2021. I just every day getting up, trying to fight, to train, to put my mind to the task and work as hard as I can with this amazing team. And this is my last race here at the British Grand Prix with this team. So I wanted to win this so much for them because I love them. I appreciate them so much. All the hard work they've been putting in all over these years. I'm forever grateful to everyone in this team, everyone at Mercedes and all of our partners, and then otherwise to all our incredible fans. I could see you lap by lap as I was coming round, and there's just no greater feeling as to finish at the front here.
It seems that the last 2.5 years, it's been 2.5 years since you won a race. I never thought we'd say that about you. You seem to always be able to get a win every single season. You've put on a brave face. It's been impressive to see, but you can tell when you're such a winner, it's tough, right?
It's so tough, I think, for anyone. But I think the important thing is just how you continue to get up, and you got to continue to dig deep even when you feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, there's definitely been days between 2021 and here where I didn't feel like I was good enough or whether I was going to get back to where I am today. But the important thing is I had great people around me continuing to support me, my team, every time I turn up, and see them putting in the effort that really encouraged me to do the same thing. And otherwise, my fans, when I see them around the world, they have been so supportive. So a big, big thank you to everybody back at the factory, everyone here. I love you guys, and God bless you.
They threw everything at you in that race. Weather, cars on track, everything. You came out on top.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. That's it. Thank you, guys.
He certainly did have everything thrown at him, and he came out on top. Lewis Hamilton, your winner of the British Grand Prix. We'll continue dissecting this, but there is also Wimbledon action continuing on. Let's head for the latest with Katie Smith.
And world number one Yannick Sinner has taken the first set against Ben Shelton on number one court, looking for a place in the quarterfinals. While on centre, defending champion Carlos Alcaraz pushed by Frenchman Hugo Humbert, but he's into the last 8, coming through in 4 sets. Emma Raducanu is up next then on the show court. We're expecting her to walk out in the next 10 minutes. She's the last Brit standing in the singles. She's never reached the quarterfinals before.
Well, we'll all be listening to that one intently. Thank you, Katie. Coverage continues right now on 5 Sports Extra, and we'll be back on BBC Radio 5 Live following us here at the British Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton has just won his 104th Grand Prix. His last Grand Prix win came 2.5 years ago. That was a hard-fought win with everything thrown at him. They're in the cool-down room now. Let's try and have a little listen in to what the top 3 are saying.
When it started raining, you both came back.
Well, the top 3 then. Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris just watching back their race in the cool-down room. Sam Bird, McLaren Formula E driver, calling that with me. I mean, first of all, what a race.
What a race.
For you, how did Lewis Hamilton win that?
I think key decisions at the right times. I think that his experience and the engineers at Mercedes, I think they simply made that final tyre choice on the right lap compared to McLaren. I think, yeah, he was a little bit quicker than Lando, but if Lando had pitted the lap before, I think Lando could have been in a position to win this Grand Prix or give himself an opportunity. Having said that, he didn't, and Lewis Hamilton emerged clearly in front, having a couple of seconds lead, and we never saw him again.
Well, we'll be dissecting it in more depth in the Checkered Flag podcast, which you can check out a little later on this evening on BBC Sound. But just waiting for the podium ceremonies to get underway. Jenny Gow, have you got a good view?
Oh, I certainly have. I'm right in front of the podium, surrounded by Mercedes mechanics and engineers. They're all behind me. They've got the best view. They're all on their tyre barriers, so they're a little bit aloft. And then there's a little boy next to me. He's on his father's shoulders with a red baseball cap on, all watching this podium, which will be, I think, quite emotional for everyone involved, especially, obviously, for Lewis Hamilton. Spoke to his father earlier. You could see the emotion. You could feel the emotion. But yes, surrounded by a gaggle of people all waiting to celebrate the top 3.
Yeah, and the crowd, the track invasion begins as the grandstands are opened up and the fans pour out onto the start-finish straight and to try and get a good view at the podium. Lewis Hamilton greets his engineer, Peter Bonington, commonly known as Bono. And the cheers erupt, firstly for Lando Norris as the podium ceremony gets underway. Well, Norris found himself battling for the win in Austria, ultimately ended with nothing after a scrap with Max Verstappen, who joins him now on the podium, the two making up post-Austria and finding themselves on the 2nd and 3rd rostrums of the podium. But the biggest cheer goes to Lewis Hamilton, your winner of the British Grand Prix, now a 9-time winner around this track, the most successful, and we will hear the British national anthem. anthem and the German national anthem raining out around Silverstone. Hamilton the winner, Mercedes the winning team, as he is given a trophy that he will treasure for a very long time. He may well have 103 other winning trophies, but I think the 104th will hold a very special place in his heart, Sandberg.
Absolutely. I think Canada 2007 and Silverstone 2024, those are the two that will mean the most.
As Max Verstappen and Lando Norris receive their trophies as well. A fantastic moment for those three, with Pete Bonington up there receiving the winning Constructors' Trophy. Mercedes bagging 25 points. Indeed, the fastest lap actually went to Carlos Sainz in the end, who finished 5th, and he gets the extra bonus point to boot. So Sainz in Ferrari with damage limitation for the Italian team. The Red Bull bosses watching on from below the paddock, clapping and supporting their man Max Verstappen, who didn't quite have the pace in the early part of this race, but came alive towards the end, having seen through the mixed conditions, varying intensities of rain. But I think there's some bubbly stuff being sprayed, Jenny Gow.
Certainly is, and Lewis Hamilton went straight over to his long-time race engineer Pete Bonington and sprayed him right in the face. Now the three of them and Pete Bonington just spray without even watching. They can't see what they're doing. Champagne in the eyes, the Union flag wrapped around Lewis's shoulders, now sopping wet. But this is a special victory for Bonington and Hamilton. They didn't think it was going to come. They couldn't see their way to winning again at Mercedes. But look, as he holds the champagne aloft and the crowd around me celebrates, he's finally done it. He's got another win, his 104th. And what a place to do it. Silverstone, his home. And he steps onto the top step with Max Verstappen, Lando Norris and Peter Bonington. And he celebrates in what is now the sunshine. Lando Norris must be thinking 1,000 thoughts. But it's Hamilton that is happy.
It certainly is, isn't it, Jenny? Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix ahead of Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris rounds out the podium in third. Two British drivers on the podium come the end of the Silverstone race. And what an epic race it was. My thanks to Jenny Gow, to Andrew Benson, to Sam Bird. We'll have more analysis in the BBC Checkered Flag podcast, which will drop a little later on this evening, and you can listen to that on BBC Sounds. But there's more British sporting heroes in action. We can cross over to Wimbledon. Well, Gigi, it was England last night. Hamilton today. It's Emma Raducanu's turn.
Well, you know, that would be our hat-trick, wouldn't it? That is what we are looking for. And in 2 minutes' time here on Centre Court, coming to you from the Centre Court box.